We're at the club. It's Sunday at the club. We're Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday show here on the line. I'm Matt Dillahunty. Joining me this week, Jovan Bradley. How are you, sir?
Hey, what's up, Matt?
Tell you, it's been a busy week. We have family in visiting, and that's been great. We got to go to the Ren Fair for a little while yesterday. But also I have another friend in town. It's also South by Southwest. And so I went and hung out a little bit at South by Southwest. But then there's also a lot of work to do between, having all the reptiles in. But the most important thing is it's Sunday, and that means it's your opportunity to call in and explain to us why we should agree with you about your religious beliefs, or in some cases, perhaps your political beliefs, or anything that we disagree on. But by and large, especially if you're like a Christian with the Great Commission, if you're following your obligation under 1 Peter 3:15 to go out and be ready at all times to provide an explanation for the faith that you have. And I'd love to know why faith is a good thing. Jovan, one of the debate topics on your channel typically is that MAGA are uneducated or evil.
Yeah, I kept that for our fun little talk today.
I'm wondering if I'm gonna go over the abstract real quick, but there's a study on PubMed from June of 2024 called Predicting Political Beliefs with Polygenic Scores for Cognitive Performance and Educational Attainment.
I'm going to pretend I know what that meant.
Awesome. Well, the abstract points out that intelligence is correlated with a range of left-wing and liberal political beliefs. And this could suggest that intelligence directly alters our political views, but the association may be confounded or mediated by socioeconomic and environmental factors, which means just having greater education and better cognitive performance, whether that's an IQ test or SATs or whatever else, that could be a reflection of your privilege and growing up in an area where you are provided with better education and better opportunities. And so this study studied the effect of intelligence within a sample of 300 biological and adoptive families using both measured IQ and polygenic scores for cognitive performance and educational attainment. And they found that both IQ and polygenic scores significantly predicted all 6 of their political scales. And polygenic scores predicted social liberalism and a lower authoritarianism within families. Intelligence was able to significantly predict social liberalism and a lower authoritarianism within families, even after controlling for socioeconomic variables. Now, their findings might provide the strongest causal inference to date of intelligence directly affecting political beliefs. And intelligence isn't merely IQ, although it's one of the factors that they considered. And because this went for not just left stuff, but authoritarian stuff, it also definitely shows that MAGA are either undereducated or evil. And I would say that it applies also to people who are religious, at least until someone can demonstrate an evidence-based, reliable, reasonable case for their religion, which is what I've been sitting here waiting for people to do for like 20 years. I'll caution you all.
You think they're going to provide evidence?
I'm hoping. I'm not... I'm cautiously optimistic, but also caution people that just because you're on the left doesn't mean you're smart.
True.
Some of you are dumber than a sack of hammers.
One of the topics I run is there's no compelling external evidence for Christianity. Yeah. And I swear Christians don't know what external means, because I tell them the evidence has to come outside of the belief case. And they're like, well, what about the Gospels? I'm like, well, that would be inside the belief, wouldn't it? That's like in the book.
You know what else?
What about the Old Testament? Also,
they also don't know what contemporary means. So when I talk about, oh
my God, they sure don't.
I'm looking for contemporary evidence, and then they come in and like, well, this guy 200 years later wrote this. Oh, great. That's not contemporary. If in 100 years somebody tells me the story of Elvis, you know, I'm not going to be more impressed by that than I am by things that were written by people who knew Elvis and closer to the time. Well, that's what the Gospels are. No, they're actually not. The Gospels are anonymous. We don't know who wrote them. We don't know if we know that we probably have reliable translations to the oldest available documents, but we have no idea who wrote them, what the originals necessarily said, if there's some significant change in there. But definitely there's no reason to think there are eyewitnesses. And even if they were eyewitnesses, we have eyewitnesses to all kinds of things. And we know eyewitness testimony is unreliable, and you're getting biased sources. I just released a video because a couple of guys, Alex O'Connor and another one, Joseph, I'm sorry, I don't know him, so I forget his last name. They called me out on the claims aren't evidence thing. So I released a video that went into detail about exactly what I meant, which they somehow both got right and wrong in their uncharitable mockery. And then they completely fell apart by pretending that science is just a bunch of claims we have to trust. It was like one of the most embarrassing things I've seen from smart skeptics, but it's out there on my channel. And yeah, we'll see if maybe they want to engage on this subject and attempt to rehabilitate their reputation, which is currently getting cooked.
Oh,
So how's your week?
it was pretty good. Had my birthday. I didn't
Nice.
do much because I just sort of have been. I leave to go to New York in like 3 or 4 days, so I've just been trying to stream as much as possible until then. So I have plenty of like content to pop up until I get back. So it's mostly been me arguing with chuds, and my patience has become like so thin. It is literally it snaps in about a second now.
Oh man.
I can't help it. I can't do stupid. I have such little. I've realized that my trigger, like the thing that will trigger me to get pissed off, is someone who's too stupid to understand how bad their argument is. That drives me crazy.
I will say it's going to be fun if I'm the most patient person here at the line today. By the way, the number is 720-619-2288. You can call in theists, people who are actually advocating for their beliefs. You're going to get to the top of the line, the head of the queue. You get your opportunity to convince us. And the other thing is, it's been the case that defenders of the various faiths have made the same consistent mistakes across the board. And it makes me wonder, why doesn't God help them? Like if they have a God, I'm just going to pick Christianity as an example for a moment. This applies to other religions as well. But Christianity is the one that I'm more familiar with. And if you have your God that has given you this great commission, go ye therefore into all the world, preaching the gospel of Jesus, blah, 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 blah. And has made promises about how, he'll reveal himself to you, and whatever two of you ask, in my name, it'll be done by my Father in heaven. All of these things. Why is there still hunger? Why is there still suffering? Why are none of you able to present some sort of evidence-based thing? Why do you keep falling back on faith when we already know faith is not a path of truth? It's not a good reason to believe anything. In fact, faith is the excuse people give to believe something when they can't come up with a good reason. If you can come up with a good reason, you don't ever mention faith. And I think it's fundamentally telling. So,
but I always like to be careful because I don't even care if you have a good reason for you personally to believe in the thing, right? You could have a perfectly fine enough reason, like Christianity helped me overcome drug addiction. I think that's a perfectly fine thing for you to be a Christian because that it helped you there. But why should I? Why should Matt? Why should the other 9 billion people on this planet be Christian? It's not because you got over your addiction, right?
Right.
That's not a reason I should be Christian. So that's why I always tell people I want external evidence, not just in the fact of outside of the belief, but it needs to also come from outside of you. I can't have my evidence for this thing can't be because it made somebody else feel good. What? Boring.
So here it is, Sunday. It's either your Sabbath or it's just a day or so after your Sabbath, or it doesn't matter and you're under an obligation to convince us. Why should we be Christian? Why should we be Muslim? Why should we be Jewish? Why should we be Scientologists, I guess, if you really want to, come in for the mockery, why should we be Mormons? Whatever your position, whatever your belief is, we're coming from positions where we care about whether or not something's true. We are skeptics, critical thinkers. We are desperately wanting someone to justify not just why they believe, but why they think others should believe. That's it.
Convince us that what the things that I asked the ops to do today, convince us that God is real. Convince us that Christianity is true. We can throw in any other religion you want there, but I'm definitely more studied on Christianity than I am on literally any other religion. And convince us that MAGA are not uneducated and or evil people, right? Can you convince us of those three things? I doubt it, but like if you can, nut up.
Yeah. And by the way, we're speaking kind of in generalities, as I cautioned people that just because you're on the left doesn't mean you're smarter. I mean, you could have got carried by the people who understood stuff. It's not like you went out and did all the research yourself. The people who do their own research, they're probably not so much in the smarter category a good chunk of the time. But we're all prone to mistakes. We're all prone to failing. And despite the fact that I've done this for ages, and I used to be a Christian, I was Southern Baptist, fundamentalist, was going to be a pastor. And when I learned more, when I got more educated about good epistemology, sound reasoning, my old beliefs faded away. And they were, there's not, belief isn't a choice. What you're convinced of isn't something you're just, today I'm going to decide to be a Muslim. And IQ, I'm on record talking a lot about IQ tests and how they're basically a measure of how good you are at taking IQ tests, but they do tie to some natural ability and some learned ability. So there are going to be some smart MAGA folks. And I would say that they're most likely the ones who are using all of the stupid MAGA folks to get rich. There's a quote or a saying that's attributed to Seneca, but I don't think we can verify it. And that is, religion is regarded by the common people as true, by the wise as false, and by the rulers as useful. And so all of this talk about end times and destruction and we're going to ignore Israel's genocide in Gaza, and we're going to, be Israel's lapdogs and go out and attack Iraq, and they're going to attack Lebanon and all this because it's all about Gog and Magog, and we need to bring Jesus back. And you
mean to tell me that when the Bible said that we were going into the end times, that it lied?
Oh, well, it hasn't been right yet. And yet we keep hearing over and over. That's why at some point, when do you stop anticipating, especially in addition to its claims? It also says no one will know the hour or the day, which means every time somebody goes out and makes a prediction and says, hey, this is the one, this is the war to end all war. There's wars and rumors of wars. This is the one that's going to lead Jesus back. I can tell. Every time they've said it, they've been wrong.
I'm goading today. Any person that comes into my chat that's an op, I'm just going to tag them and say call, and then they're muted for 5 minutes. I don't care. I don't want to hear you guys chirping in the comments today. Call in or shut up. I got my patience. I told Matt, razor thin. Come on. Don't be scared. What do you have to lose except the possibility of you deconstructing? You got nothing to lose.
I had someone, I actually recorded a video. It's a prediction. It's on my phone. I recorded it an hour ago, and I can play it if I need to, an hour and 15 minutes ago. I'm going to bet that I don't need to play the video, because somebody came on my Facebook page and made a comment saying Matt doesn't understand science. And that was, I think, the entirety of the comment. So I invited them to call into the show. Right now, there's lines open, 720-619-2288. And down below this is a link to the call-in studio link that will get you in the show. And I know Jovan's also streaming and has the information up on his channel as well. But I was like, go ahead, call in. This is your big chance. You can call in and show how little I understand about science, how little I understand about anything. And I recorded a video where I have predicted exactly what his case for me not understanding science is going to be. But we won't need to go into it when the show's close to over. Maybe I'll reveal it when he absolutely doesn't call in, because my second prediction is that we will not hear from this person today.
I wonder if we'll hear from any of the regulars. I mean, I know some people have been like, Jimmy set the rules for if Gohan ever calls anybody anymore. That's always a treat. But I think here's what I think. I think if you guys are such brave Christians, right? It takes no effort to be a Christian who doesn't try to defend your beliefs. It's no effort. Low diff. Prove that you're great Christians who can not only defend your belief, but do it goodly. Do it goodly. Is goodly a word? I don't think so. Well,
I think you're correct. That it's not. It's a word now.
It's a word. We just made it
probably a word from like 400 years ago. Oh, goodly morning to you, madame. You know,
I saw Goodly Proctor dancing with the devil.
That's right. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And we are here ready to take your calls. We have somebody already calling in who's being screened right now, and that's going to kick us off. And so I'm going to thank them in advance because, you know, first of all, there's a bunch of people watching in chat. They are excited to hear the callers call in. And, but they're also supportive. By the way, if you want to support what goes on here at the line, and there's a ton of other shows in addition to the Sunday show here, which will run from 1 to 4 p.m. Central. So it's 1:15 right now. You can do the math on wherever you live. There will also be a Calling It Now after that, and a Sunday show after dark after that. Then on Mondays will be Skeptalk. Tuesdays is Chewed Gum. Skeptalk is primarily a science and skepticism thing, although there's going to be discussions about religion on all of these, just because there's a lot of religious people who think that they have good reasons. And if they do, I want to know, because if there's a good reason, like if I gave up or was tricked out of or fooled out of my Christianity and potentially my salvation, I would like to know so that I can fix it. I would rather not be wrong. Tuesday's show in both the evening shows are at 6 p.m. Is Chewed Gum, and it is primarily about purity culture and how religions poison everything having to do with sex, all done from a woman's perspective. And so you're not going to see myself or Jovan hosting those shows at all, or at least not Chewed Gum.
Not unless we come out.
Yeah. Wednesday night is my show, The Hang Up, and it tends to focus more on politics than on religion. But, you know, last week I had allegedly Ian on, and we're experimenting with the vertical video on my show, and it's been outstanding. We're getting more calls. We're getting better calls. It's turning us on to a newer audience. And we're not doing that yet here today, but I'm incredibly excited. I've been more enthused about doing shows just since we started doing that. Ian was great. We'll definitely be having Ian back. And so Wednesday's show.
Oh, Ian's phenomenal.
Yeah. Wednesday's show ended up being a lot about religion, even though generally politics. Then on Thursdays, the Transatlantic Call-In Show. If you're confused about trans stuff, if you're confused about trans identity, trans rights, we do a show every Thursday where two trans folks are here who not only are trans and have spent a good chunk of time studying this stuff, fighting for those rights and educating people, but they're also willing to talk to you and engage even with some of the most awful people. So if you've been called a transphobe and you'd rather not be, you can call in and find out, hey, what did I do? What did I get wrong? What am I misunderstanding? And get some help there. If you're someone who's been called a transphobe and you're fucking proud of it, you can call in and explain to them how they're wrong about the basics of reality or whatever it is that you think that you've now become the expert of. And if you're someone who may or may not be trans, but you have questions about it for loved ones, family members, yourself, you're not sure, there's plenty of discussions along those lines. And in addition to all those regularly scheduled shows, there are extra shows that we do. I have a Cus I Wanna coming up with my friend Chris Johnson, who is a documentary producer and director and filmographer. Is filmographer the right word? I don't know.
Filmography?
He does photography. He shoots great documentaries. He did the one, the atheist book, where a bunch of atheists were asked about purpose and meaning in a life without a God. Full disclosure, I'm in the documentary, that one, and the book. But he's done a documentary recently called I Bid You Peace, that is about the scandals tied to the frugal gourmet And it's a 5 or 6 part documentary, which I've already watched. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the atheist book. We're going to take a lot of questions. Chris is just phenomenal. Jovan, we got callers if you're ready.
Oh, yeah.
Sweet. Here we go. Before we jump in with the first caller, I'm just going to remind people tech is sometimes an issue, and we use Call In Studio to process the calls. If you're on your cell phone and you're using a browser to use Call In Studio, you may need to tap your phone to wake it up and then tap the browser to wake it up if it goes to sleep through all of that. So if we don't seem to be hearing you, go with that. Also, everything goes better if you pause on occasion, because then we don't have to try to forcibly interrupt for clarity. I'm going to interrupt when I don't understand what you're saying. I need a better definition, something like that. And there's a delay. There's a delay between myself and Jovan. There's a delay between us in the studio and all of us and the callers. So I'm going to do my best to be more patient. But mainly, let's have a good time and see if we can have good conversations as well.
Can't wait.
So Caitlin's calling from California. Pronouns are she, her. Caitlin's a theist that wants to talk to us about the choice of belief, the choice of faith, and that belief is a choice. Hey, Caitlin, how are you?
Good. So I've been watching the channel for a while now. Follow on Facebook and YouTube, and first off, I just wanted to mention that I am transgender. So yeah, that's something. But more so on the topic of the choice of belief and the choice of faith. I heard you guys talking earlier about how, faith isn't really a good reason for you to believe. And I wanted to take a step back from that and say that like I personally choose to believe, I personally choose to have faith, and I follow the teachings of Christ, but I don't refer to myself as a Christian, right? I'm more progressive, more liberal than a lot of people that may call. So yeah, just it's yeah, it's really just your personal choice, right? I'm not saying you have to, but you can choose whether or not to believe. Like
Oh,
that's the whole.
I
Okay.
mean, within philosophy, this is the debate about doxastic volunteerism, about whether or not you have any simple choice over what your beliefs are. My view is that if you believe something, that means you are convinced that it is likely to be true, and that you are convinced for good reasons and bad reasons, but never a simple choice. So you can't just like choose to believe gravity doesn't work. You can't just like choose to believe that Jesus is real and exists. You have become convinced for some reason.
Yeah. So like I was saying, I'm more progressive and liberal than other people that I've heard call.
I don't know what that has to do with the subject.
Yeah, it doesn't. What I'm getting at is the choice of belief, right? It it I choose, like, for me it's a choice to follow the teachings of Jesus.
But that's not a choice of belief.
Whether
You choose what you do on behalf of your beliefs. And so someone who genuinely believes that Jesus is divine can then choose to follow along with whatever they believe Jesus wants. But also, someone who doesn't believe Jesus is divine, but believes there's value in acting as if that's the case, can choose to take those same actions. That's different from what you're convinced of.
I just don't like, personally, I guess maybe it's just me, but I don't see the point. Like, Jesus's teachings aren't anything that is specific to Jesus. So like believing in the whole of Christianity, the whole of the mythos, simply because you like the stuff Jesus says seems, I don't want to say a little backwards, but at least a little backwards, right? Like you don't have to believe in Jesus to believe any of this other stuff.
Oh, you're totally right. You don't. Um, yeah, you can. I think what I'm trying to get at is like a different. I'm not. So let me clearly state. I'm not advocating that Jesus is divine, right? I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying for me is just following the path that he instructed. For me, it's about, there are some teachings that are certain to Jesus, especially in when he says like,
What teachings are, but what teachings are specific to only Jesus? So like you can't find these principles anywhere else.
so again, I might be mistaken. So if I am, then that I will freely admit it. But the one of the teachings that is just taught in Christianity is how the greatest commandment is to love your neighbor. Like the whole summation of the
That's Buddhism
Jewish
has that
law
though.
back in the day.
But again, we're not back in the day, right? So it's not
So
like this exists as a antithesis to some other massive push. We all sort of just believe like be nice to the people around you.
so let's say I made a list of 10 things that the Bible claims Jesus said. Do you agree with all 10 of them or some portion of them or what?
If you, I mean, so for me, it's about context. It's about, um,
Have you read the
yeah,
Bible?
yeah, I have.
So you're familiar with what Jesus said. So like if we went through the Sermon on the Mount, what portion of the Sermon on the Mount do you think you agree with?
I I agree with the whole of it. I think
Really?
the Sermon
So you
on the
think
Mount was
divorce
one
is
of
only
the.
permissible? So you think divorce is only permissible for sexual immorality, right?
Um, Based on the context back in the day, and like here's why I'm bringing context into it is because you have to understand the setting and the context.
No, I don't.
Back in the day,
No, I don't. So first of all, I do understand the setting and the context, but I also know what the book says and what it claims Jesus said. And specifically, Jesus prohibits divorce for anything other than sexual immorality. He also praises it as a man divorcing his wife. He doesn't talk about divorce in any broader sense. It doesn't give any permission for the wife to divorce her husband, and it definitely doesn't give permission for husbands to divorce their husbands or wives to divorce their wives. And so if it says, I'm here, Matthew 5:32. It's right at the beginning almost of the Sermon on the Mount. But I say to you that everyone who divorces his wife, except on the grounds of sexual immorality, makes her commit adultery, and whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Do you agree with that?
um, I think for this is just me and my view on it. For them in that era,
Do you think that passage only
um,
applies to people in certain areas? And why would it be valid in one or sound in one era and not in another?
because I've personally, I believe that some of the stuff that was written, it was written to protect the people in those eras.
Okay, you don't know what you're
And
talking about, and you've never spent any time thinking about this. That's where we're at. You are one of the many wonderful people who identify with a Christian label, although you don't call yourself a Christian, who think they're following the teachings of Jesus because they heard turn the other cheek, love thy neighbor, this is the bulk of the law, and then you ignore everything else that you find inconvenient or didn't bother to read or haven't thought about, and you use excuses like, oh, this applied at a different time in a different place. No, it didn't. There's nothing in this. There's nothing here about this that says, hey, for the first century, after I'm dead, this is the law on divorce. No, this is supposedly the all-knowing, all-powerful divine creator who took human form and is giving instruction. It doesn't have an expiration date. And this is why when I ask you if you agree with it, you know you don't agree with it, but you're terrified to say you disagree with it because it's red letter right there in the New Testament.
Yeah, like I just don't understand how we're going like, yeah, I need to believe everything the Bible, like the Bible is where I'm going to get all my morals, where I'm going to do all this when the Bible tells us to do absolutely horrible stuff to each other. And even if we're going off of, yeah, but I just believe in what Jesus said, even Jesus is like, no, you got to follow what the prophets told you. And the prophets told us to do horrible things to each other.
yeah,
Wouldn't it be better to like base your worldview around more just general empathy?
And also the things that you're advocating for, they're not exclusive to Jesus. And they don't require Jesus, all this Jovan pointed out. And it's weird because I just saw somebody in chat ask a question that both of us should have thought of. But if the divorce thing only applies in a certain time and a place, why doesn't the love thing only apply in a certain time and a certain place?
That's good.
um,
I mean, you
you're
can be a
right.
good person and love people and not give a shit about Jesus. Jesus doesn't give a shit about you.
You're right. I'm
Well,
not. I'm not going to
that's if Jesus
argue.
is even real.
Well, if he's not real, he still definitely doesn't give a shit about you. So I guess the only other question I have on this, Caitlin, because we were talking about whether or not belief is a choice, and you're talking about faith. Is there any position that someone couldn't adopt and just say, this is a faith-based position? Like, could I just say that white people are better than brown people and just say, that's a faith-based position? It doesn't require justification.
Um, I would say no.
Yeah. So what's good about faith if it's not a reliable path to truth?
I so as I stated before, for me, faith is about going into the going into the unknown and stepping out. I don't think faith has for me it's just about stepping out into the unknown, trusting that the higher power, and that's what I call it, right? Um, trusting that a higher power has something planned.
Well, okay. So you're not using faith in a sense of, like the same sort of as a justification. You're just saying you're willing to take a risk and trust that there's a high power. I have no problem with trust. Why should I trust that there's a higher power? If I trust that there's a higher power and there's not, isn't that dangerous?
I mean, if you put it into that context, both dangerous to trust and to not trust, and that's why I
Why?
say it's completely
Why?
a choice.
Oh, no. Why is it dangerous to trust and not trust? If there is a higher power that has a plan, and I don't have a good reason to think that's true, why would it be dangerous to not trust that? I don't have good reason.
You
Why
don't.
doesn't that higher power's plan include letting me know that it exists and has a plan that I should trust?
Can I
I
ask
mean,
a slightly different question? Why is it that that higher powers plan revolves around needless and endless suffering? That just seems kind of messed up, right? Like, I don't even care if I'm a part of the
I'm
plan, if me believing is a part of the plan. Why does the plan involve like the slaughter of children or women getting raped or all this other stuff that he could easily prevent?
I mean, I'm not going to argue with you there. Like, for me personally, I've been through sexual assault. I've been raped. Like, that's that's not like I've had to do my own battling internally. At the end of
And
the day,
if somebody looked
like,
at you though, Caitlin, if somebody looked at you and was like, "Well, that was just all a part of God's plan," like that would be fucked up, right? Like that would be so messed up.
I mean, yeah, it is, and it has happened. That's why I don't know. You're the way this is going, I'm questioning a lot more. Um,
Well, take that
so
as an opportunity, Caitlin. Go off, do some thinking, ask some questions, and realize that you can be a good person and value the good things, whether Jesus supposedly said them or I don't care if Hitler supposed. I'm sure Hitler said something nice to somebody at some point. I mean, the old quote is Hitler probably loved his mom. I don't know. Maybe who knows? But you can think about these things, and instead of worrying about whether or not, oh, I'm following Jesus. Just follow good. And if Jesus turns out to be real and good, then you win. And if Jesus doesn't turn out to be either real or good, you still win. And you don't have to do it based on faith. You can have trust and confidence. For example, when I sit down in this chair, I have trust and confidence that this chair will hold me up because I've sat in it before, because I understand the manufacturing process, because I understand a little bit about physics. And the day that it doesn't, I won't feel that my trust was misplaced. It will be, oh, things wear out, things changed. My trust is never 100% because I don't think you can be absolutely certain about anything. I have a confidence that is proportioned to the evidence. And it would be a mistake for me to have a confidence that isn't proportional to the evidence because that means I'm either overconfident or I'm too timid and not willing to accept or too cynical and not willing to accept reality. So skepticism and critical thinking are about finding that balance of I need good reasons to believe things and I should only be as confident as the evidence dictates. So take some time and think on that. I appreciate the call, Caitlin.
all right, bye.
Take care.
Toodaloo.
All right, we got a bunch of callers, including a bunch of theist callers. One of them looks like a complete repeat of a call from the same person the other day with the same question. So hopefully we'll get
Which
to that
number?
soon.
Which number is that?
Well, they say numbers. It's 5-4. I don't know.
5-4. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like 3-2, 4-3, 5-4, 6-5, 7. I hate the way he calls in studio.
Yeah.
It's like, which number are you talking about? 6-7.
6-7.
But that's pretty good. So we've got theist callers, and here we go. Ray is calling from Europe. Ray's a theist, pronouns are he, him, who says, God answers my prayers because I'm an actual Christian. Atheists don't have answered prayers because of doubt in their hearts. Hey, atheists, how could if atheists don't, or sorry, Ray, if atheists don't get answered prayers, how can they ever pray to God and accept him into their heart?
Hello.
Hi.
So I might have rephrased it. I might have phrased that a little like I might have had a different idea. What I wanted to say is that an atheist doesn't have the changed heart that would allow him to notice when a prayer has been answered. Okay, so, but you also said that how could an atheist even pray because he doesn't believe in God? Well, maybe in a moment of desperation, he could maybe try.
So let me help you out a little bit, Ray, because I want to understand what you're saying. When I was 5, I walked down the aisle and accepted Jesus into my heart, and I was a fundamentalist Southern Baptist for the next 25-ish years or so. And then I found that my beliefs weren't warranted, and I gave them up. What reason should we have to believe that you are correct about God?
Well, I would say it's a heart thing more than I would say logic or something like that. Because even Jesus said that blessed are those who haven't seen me, who take my word on faith. So
okay,
I think it was implying that
I've got a bridge I'd like to sell you, Ray. I've got a bridge I'd like to sell you, Ray. It's $1,000. It's worth $1 million. I'm not going to show you pictures of it, and you will be blessed if you send me $1,000 for this bridge that you haven't seen. Are you going to do that?
Okay, good point.
Ray, why should I believe what Jesus says versus anybody else that claims to have been a prophet? Why is Jesus the one that I should listen to?
Well, I'm gonna answer it like this. I got to Jesus by I started considering Jesus by trusting my friends who were Christians. I weren't at the time. And because I trusted them, I thought, hey, let's give it a shot. And what I found out was that this kind of resonates with me. Maybe not in a logical way, but I felt it in my heart. There was something there.
All right, let me tell you too. I've never felt somebody coming in my heart. But let me tell you something, Ray. I don't believe in Jesus because you felt a connection to Jesus. So why should I personally believe that Jesus was the Messiah? Why should I believe that he was divine, a deity, whatever you want to say he was?
What I would say to that is that you can try, and don't try it for my sake, but try it because maybe some of your friends have told you to. Hey, you should.
Why would I?
A good thing. Maybe
if my friends, Ray,
I just told you I was a Christian for like
Ray. If your friends told you to try heroin, would you do it for their sake?
No, because I have
I
have proof of that what heroin does, but most proof about what Christ does in your life is good. So I might give it a shot.
What about all the people that are like abused in? What about all the people that are abused in church?
Just because of it.
Ray, what about all of the people that are abused in church settings? Would that not be a case of?
Well, I would say that the abusers in that case are disobeying some of God's teachings.
So really? God doesn't even have the power to make sure that the people that are speaking for him don't abuse people?
He has the power to do that. Now, I think your question is why doesn't he? But
why does he let abusers speak for him?
I'm sorry?
It just seems weird that God lets abusers speak for him.
Here, like, okay, it sounds bad in a case, but if the message is still clear, even though
doesn't just sound bad, bud. It is bad.
Well, just because someone disobeys one rule doesn't mean they don't know the rest and they can't teach the rest.
Okay, should we have just like let everything going on in the Catholic Church continue to go on? Because just because they broke the rule of sleeping with little boys doesn't mean that like it doesn't mean they can't continue to teach the rest of it.
You weren't saying we shouldn't. You weren't saying that I weren't saying we shouldn't like put them to jail or something. You simply said that just because they disobeyed one rule, that makes them unqualified to teach the
No,
rest.
why? No, 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 no,
I'm
no.
saying no, it
Why does
doesn't. But
God? No, 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 no. If God is this all good being, if Jesus is all good and he cares about people and he cares about life, he cares about all of this, why would he let people who sexually abuse children spread his message?
mm, I don't know.
I don't either. What I'm
But
wondering
here's the thing:
is your
in the end,
Ray,
he cannot just stop them from spreading the message
why not? God can do anything. God can kill them, right?
because I didn't mean like ability wise. Like obviously he can, but he chooses not to because
Why?
it interferes with free will and
No,
like even though they do
Ray,
bad stuff,
Ray,
like what
Ray,
should he do?
Ray,
Should he just chain them up?
Ray. First of all, I don't believe we have free will, not in the sense that Christianity talks about it. Libertarian free will is an obvious lie. However,
Oh,
do you believe that there's a
okay.
devil?
Yes,
Did God create the devil?
yes,
Does the devil know for a fact that God is real? Has he been in God's presence?
yes,
And he was able to rebel, right?
yes.
Which means that God can directly reveal himself to someone, and that person can still rebel against God and choose not to follow God, which means there is no reason for God not to reveal himself to me and Jovan, because we still will have the ability to rebel against God.
I also just think it's moral to live in a world in which rapists don't have free will. Maybe that's just me, but I think like the free will of a rapist isn't as important as the safety of the person getting raped. Just gonna throw that out there.
Do you have, it sounds to me like you tried it out and you found that it worked for you. Do you have any evidence that, apart from the fact that you feel better and you like it, do you have any evidence that it's true? And do you have evidence specifically that couldn't also be used by someone from a different religion?
Mm, no, I would say because like if I hear someone that has uh, has has been answered a prayer and he is, for example, a Muslim, I would just say that your prayer is that answer has been possible by some demonic forces or whatever.
How do you, first of all,
So
Ray, I need two very important things. How do you know that a prayer has in fact been answered? And how do you tell if it's been answered by God or a demon?
And then after that, I want to go back to the thing of the demonic forces thing for a second. I'm going to answer Matt's question first.
okay, so it's a hard thing, I would say.
Yeah, but I'm asking
It's
how,
like a
because you
personal
think you
experience,
can do it.
and
I don't care
I
how hard it
cannot
is. I care how to do it.
I cannot convince you that it was God.
Now, see, Ray, this is dishonest on your part because I didn't ask you whether or not you can convince me. And you don't know if you can convince me. You don't know shit about me. What you're saying is, what I hear you saying is you do not have any sort of reasonable method to identify whether or not a prayer has been answered. Is that correct?
Uh, I would say by scientific standards, no, but it's a hard thing.
By what standards then,
It's
Ray?
like intuition.
And here, Ray, here's a tip. Instead of adding caveats to what I've said in order to make it feel more comfortable for you, just answer what I've said. I didn't ask you what by scientific standards. You brought that up. What standard can you use to determine that a prayer has been answered?
My own personal experience.
Can it be wrong?
I would say it almost has to be, doesn't it, Ray? Because you're not God. How would you know if a divine thing has happened to you?
Well, I'm not God, but God has told me that my
God
prayer
told you
has been
something.
answered, for example.
How do you know that God told you something, and how accurate is your intuition?
Because I can connect it to other things that have happened in my life, and it makes enough sense to make me believe.
That's not even in the ballpark of what I asked you. I didn't ask you if you find it convincing. I asked you how accurate your intuition was, and I asked you, how do you know that God told you something? Does God speak to you out loud? Does he show up and present himself, or is it just a feeling?
It's more like me hearing him in prayer. Not that I hear him as a voice, but I feel like I can distinguish.
Can you hear him reliably? Like if you ask him questions, do you get answers that you can hear?
No.
Okay.
It appears like thought, but I can somehow distinguish it from my own thoughts.
And how do you know that's not just the demons
or delusion?
It's a hard
like
thing.
If I were a demon trying to
I don't know how
on
to
my
logically
side,
explain it, but
Ray, if I was a demon trying to get people on my side, wouldn't it make sense that I like answer a few prayers to make them think that I'm God?
Wouldn't it make sense that I pretend like I'm God to confuse them?
But God doesn't allow that.
Well, how do you know that?
But he allows people to get raped.
Wait, hang on, Ray. Do you care if your beliefs are true?
Yes.
Okay. Is God the good one and the demons are the bad ones?
Yes.
How did you determine that God was the good one and the demons were the bad ones?
Because everything good that I have in my life came from God.
So first of all, you don't know that. You don't know that anything has ever come from God, but I asked you how you determined that God was the good one and the demons were the bad ones. Can demons do good things?
Yes.
Okay. Can God do bad things?
Yes.
Then how do you know God is good?
Because of the end goal. Meaning demons can do something good, but the intention is bad. They
How
are
do you
trying
know
to
what the
lead you
intention of a demon is?
Somewhere where.
How do you know what demon's intention?
From the Bible.
Why would you presume that is the Bible inspired by God?
Yes.
If God can do good things and bad things, how do you know the Bible isn't one of the bad things God can do?
Because God's intentions ultimately are good.
How do you know God's intentions are good?
The Bible.
So you know the Bible is good because God's intentions are good, which you know are good because it's in the Bible. Then why does the Bible support and endorse slavery? Why is it misogynistic against women? Why does it make claims that are unscientific and unfounded, untestable? Are you okay with divorce only being allowed in the case of sexual immorality? Sorry.
No,
but the Bible is. So how do you figure out which parts of the Bible are right and which parts are wrong?
I wasn't saying they're wrong or right. You just asked for how I feel about them.
You disagree with the Bible, right?
No.
Okay, so then you do think that divorce is only permissible for sexual immorality.
Yeah, is there any part of the Bible you disagree on, or you're 100% gung-ho on the whole thing?
But I don't have to disagree for me to not like some part of it.
That's literally what disagree means, Ray.
Just because I don't like that a tornado destroyed my house doesn't mean I don't think it's true.
I didn't ask about true. I asked about good.
What?
If you thought that the Bible's position on divorce was good, that means you're in agreement with it. If you don't think it's good, then you're in disagreement. The same thing for the Bible's position on slavery. The same thing for the Bible's position on women. Do you agree with the Bible's position on slavery, women, and divorce?
Well, the good and the bad are decided by God, so
no, I'm asking you whether you agree with it. I'm not aware that there is any God. You have not established that God does in any way determine what is good. You haven't been able to demonstrate that there is a God, that the God is good, that the God determines good. None of this. It's all just you buying into a storybook that you don't even seem to know or agree with. So I'm trying to figure out, you clearly do not care if your beliefs are true, because if you care when your beliefs are true, you find a standard by which to determine if your beliefs are true.
Okay. Can I like answer the question? Like, do I agree or not?
Do you agree with the
Hello?
Bible's position on
Oh.
slavery?
I might not be understanding you too well. What do you mean by agree? Do I think it's good?
The
do I think
Bible,
it's
the Bible,
do I like it?
the Bible, I'm going to answer you. The Bible in Exodus 21, Leviticus 25, and also in Deuteronomy, although I don't remember the specific chapter, the Bible says that slavery is permissible, instructs people to buy their slaves from the heathen that surround you. It has a different set of rules for Jewish slaves than it has for non-Jewish slaves. It says that you can beat your slaves as long as they don't die within a day or two, and that they are your property that you can pass on to your children. Do you think that is a moral position, that it is okay to own human beings as property and beat them?
I don't think that's okay.
Okay, so
But
you
in
are
the
not in
end-
agreement with the Bible's position on slavery. Why not? Are you right and the Bible's wrong?
I would say it's the opposite.
You're wrong and the Bible's right?
Yeah, so even though I don't feel good about
slavery is good.
what the Bible has said, because we have to remember that we're in the flesh, so some of my
So,
opinions, some of my feelings about stuff may be wrong.
Ray, do you think slavery is okay?
No.
But you think you're wrong in this belief?
Well, it's God.
Yeah, if God believes slavery is okay, yes, God is the one who's wrong. Yeah.
But God has said that it's okay. And since God is the one that decides who is good or bad, because he has ultimate authority.
Wait,
then
Because
wait,
Ray is a thoughtless slave who has given over his entire humanity and morality to an idea in a book that isn't even demonstrably real. Ray is a moral monster, worshiping a moral monster because he is too weak to acknowledge that he should be and is better and more moral than the book and God he sucks up to. But maybe I'm
get all that, Ray?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard it.
I just don't understand how you can sit here and be like, it's bad to own slaves, but it must not actually be bad because God said it. So, like, why does God have to be the arbiter of what is or is not good and bad? Just even if there was a God that created the universe, right? Like, why is God the arbiter now of what will always be good or always be bad? What if he's wrong? If there was a king in charge, you wouldn't say this king now has total authority over everything. You would question when he makes questionable decisions, like, letting people own slaves. Maybe we should question that choice.
Yeah, you're like the Supreme Court saying that the president can do whatever he wants irrespective of the law, only you're worse because you can't even demonstrate that there is a law or a president.
Okay, but maybe it has to do with God's divine plan and his...
I'm not aware that there is a God or a divine plan, and maybe doesn't do anything. You don't care if your beliefs are true. You have sacrificed all of your thought, all of your responsibility, all of your ethics, any hope you have of being a reasonable, caring person to an idea that you can't demonstrate is true, and you got to operate off maybes. First of all, you don't even get to say maybe. Demonstrate that it's even possible for there to be a God.
I have nothing to say to that. I don't know what to answer.
I appreciate that, Ray. I appreciate that genuinely, because that's a difficult question that a lot of people don't get. And I get that you don't have anything to say to it. And in 20 years of doing this, nobody else has been able to do it either. I would just say, I appreciate you calling in and making an attempt. It was an honest attempt. And it's a 2-on-1 situation with two people who've been doing this a lot more than you have. So I appreciate that. But take some time and give it some thought and see if you're genuinely the type of person who cares if your beliefs are true, then it would make sense to figure out how you can tell if those beliefs are true. Because right now you're running with, I feel like it's true. And I'm sure that there are other things in your past that you felt were true that turned out to not be true, right?
Yes.
So we need a better method, right?
Like Santa Claus.
Yeah. So that means we need a better method for figuring out what's true, right?
Yeah, I suppose.
Cool. I hope you find it. But go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Before I go, I just have to say a last thing, but please don't feel angry with me.
Huh.
I'm not actually a Christian. I was just an atheist. I was trying to protect it, but
Okay. Wow. Please don't be angry with me. I'm a big fat fucking liar who exploited the rules on your show and wasted your time and Jovan's time and your audience's time and kept actual theists on hold. Ray, go fuck yourself. You coward, calling in under the web thing in order to fucking lie to us. I thought, here I'm sitting here thinking, we're actually going to have some kind of genuine, productive conversation. You don't get any fucking credit for being slightly honest at the end of a call. You're a garbage thinker and you are a garbage human being. You wasted everybody's time. And if it weren't for the fact that our network needs support, I would delete your entire call from this show and not post it anywhere, just so you can never have the satisfaction of hearing yourself on a live show. However, I'm going to take this in a different direction and use this as an opportunity to point out to people, Jovan and I, and all the other people here at the line, we want to have conversations with genuine people who believe and who think that we're wrong about something. I don't need you to call in and pretend. I don't need, because you're bad at it. I don't need you to call in, oh, you weren't getting calls, and so I figured I'd call in and pretend to be a theist. None of that. I'd rather sit here and play chess and talk to Jovan than waste time on liars. And most of you watching already know that the easiest thing you can do to piss me off is to lie to me. I've ended all kinds of relationships that I had with liars, fraudulent bullshitters who are still active in the atheist community. I got no patience for liars. I got no need for them. I would expect you, Ray, you need to write a public apology and post it somewhere to the people who are on hold right now and to Jimmy for wasting the money to keep you on the line and wasting their time. If this next caller, I'm going to have to start by apologizing to the next caller who's been on the hold for 30 minutes because you're a lying piece of shit. So let's try this again. I'm going to reset. Boom. Kevin's calling from Europe. Pronouns are he, him. Kevin's a theist, has a way of proving God with suggestions for how we can prove God. Kevin, I'm sorry we kept you on hold for a liar. Let's hope that our conversation goes much better.
Yeah. So, of course, I have a way to present, but before I do that, I want to talk about some boring semantics. I want to ask you, an atheist is someone who does not believe in a God. This is the definition.
Yep.
Is that right? Okay. So how do you call someone who is not convinced that a God exists?
That's an atheist. If you do not believe, you are not convinced that the proposition is true. Belief is the state of believing a proposition is likely true. So yeah, there's a difference between someone who does not believe a God exists and someone who believes a God does not exist.
I don't see how those two are
it's
the
really
same.
easy, Kevin. The number of blades
Yeah.
of grass on the planet is either an even number or an odd number, right?
True.
Do you believe that the number is even?
No.
No. But does that mean that you believe it's odd?
No. I take no position.
Yeah. No. You might take a position, but that doesn't mean that you're convinced that it's even, and it doesn't mean that you're convinced that it's odd. For example, here's a different one. If you're on the jury and the burden of proof is that people are presumed innocent until guilt is established, if you are not convinced of their guilt, you vote not guilty. But that does not mean you are convinced they are innocent, right?
Right.
There you go. I find God in it. I find God not guilty of existing. Nobody has convinced me that God is guilty of existing. And nobody's made a case that I find should convince anyone that God is guilty of existing.
Right.
That doesn't tell us whether or not God exists. And it doesn't necessarily mean that for specific gods, I think they are innocent. But for some gods, I think they are innocent of existing.
Yeah. Well, it seems weird because I can say I do not think that X exists, or I can say I do not know if X exists. It's two different things.
Yeah, Kevin, can I be so for real for a second? Kevin, hold on. Can I be so for real for a second? This all seems like you just trying to avoid actually telling us what would make us believe in God. I feel like now we're in the semantics of, well, what does atheism mean? What does belief mean? I like whatever you want it to mean. Can we talk about like what would prove God is real?
I'm bringing all this up. I'm sorry. I'm bringing all this up because there's so much confusion. You know, there's so many labels, and I hate
Kevin.
Yeah.
You called in to suggest a way to prove that God exists. Extra confusion that people have about definitions and terms should be largely irrelevant to your case for God. So just present your case for God.
Okay, sure. I think there is one way to prove God objectively, which is let us say that there's some God that we do not know of, right? And he presents himself to some person in the distant past. And he provides him with a vision about the future. And then they say, oh, I see God, and they start writing down this detailed, precise prophecy. It's just not just one event, but many sequential events. And then years pass, and every event happens precisely. And those events are very unlikely to happen. If every event, and there are many events, not just one or two, like if every event happens precisely as it is written, then that means the person who wrote this prophecy must have had something that cannot be easily explained by humans.
Good thing that has never happened then.
Yeah, not only has that never happened, but
this has never happened.
Hang on. Please let me finish. Mm-hmm. Can I finish? So first of all, that has never happened, but let's assume that it did. Your conclusion was that means that person has something that can't be easily explained. I would agree.
Sure.
That if it happened, that means that there's something that can't be easily explained. And if it can't be easily explained, then you have no way of determining if it's because they got it from God, or if they got incredibly lucky, or if they met a time traveler, or if they had one of 1,000 other explanations that you don't know about. So this is not in any way. I'm still talking. Sure. I don't know why that's so fucking difficult for people, but this doesn't in any way mean that you have presented a case for God, definitely not proof for God. And even if it would have been proof for God, this situation, this scenario you have talked about has never happened.
Sure. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that the guy also writes that I saw this prophecy from God that appeared to me.
That doesn't change that. No, Kevin, listen. That doesn't change a thing. The guy could have wrote down that he got the prophecy from God, but that doesn't. Why do you keep interrupting me? This is incredibly frustrating because you're presenting a really you're presenting a really flawed case for God, and I'm pointing it out because this is obvious shit that I've dealt with 1,000 times over 20 years. Even if you wrote down God,
no,
excuse me?
No, you haven't.
Would you? I haven't.
Who else has proposed what I'm proposing? Who
I've
else
been
has
doing
proposed what
call.
I'm
Okay, I'm
proposing?
going to mute you, and then I'm going to educate you. Hi, I'm Matt Dillahunty. I've been hosting call-in shows for more than 20 years. I've done this probably more than, or at least as much as anybody you're likely to find. This isn't a new show. This isn't even the first new show. You should have looked me up on Wikipedia or something. And I travel the world doing live public debates. This is my job and has been for 20 years, or at least a mission. I didn't really start getting paid for it till much later. This is incredibly common. It's called the argument from prophecy. And prophecy needs to be specific, answerable by a single set of circumstances that isn't subject to interpretation. And even if we granted somebody made a prediction, claimed that prediction was from God, and the prediction appeared to come true, that would not be enough justification to believe that the person was correct that it came from God, because you cannot rule out deception and time travel or witch God or any of those things. Trust me, the reason I have all of this on ready access while I'm playing a game of chess is because this is banal and basic. This is, I'm going to try to defend God 101. And for those of us who've done this for a long time, yes, I've done it thousands of times over the years. Let's at least just say hundreds for sure. It may not be multiple thousands for this specific case, but somebody comes along and says, you said this would be objective proof. Those were your words. I wrote them down. You said objective proof would be if a God we don't know of presents himself to someone a long time ago, provides visions of the future, those were wrote down, many sequential events, and every event happened precisely. That would be a demonstration they have something that we don't have a good explanation for. I agree. You don't have a good explanation, which means you don't get to pretend it's from God. You don't even get to pretend that you haven't demonstrated that a God is possible. And until you demonstrate that a God is possible, you don't get to include God as a candidate explanation for some unknown event. How did they know the future? Maybe they met a time traveler. Maybe they met a demon. Maybe they met a God. Maybe they met an alien. Maybe they met any number of things. Your fundamental understanding of epistemology is flawed. And if you'd have let me finish without talking over me to tell me that I haven't done what has demonstrably been done in the decades of shows of me answering this question on YouTube, then I wouldn't have needed to give you this kind of rudimentary basic explanation about your rudimentary basic argument. So I'm going to take you off mute now. I'm going to take a back seat because Jovan hasn't done this nearly as long as I have, and I bet he's done this hundreds of times.
True.
Here we go. Let's try again, Kevin. How does it prove God?
Because if you have a book that precisely predicts something about the future, you take that somebody's word for it. He's reliable. He predicts something that cannot be predicted. So it means that he has some divine, how do you call this? Some divine thing.
Maybe you should ask God to help you come up with a word.
Yeah.
So like Jules Verne would have according to you, Jules Verne is a prophet because he predicted scuba suits. He predicted underwater rifles.
Is this a specific prophecy? Is this a specific prophecy that's very unlikely to happen?
It's a prophecy about when we went 20,000 leagues under the sea. This is such a nothing burger
about a sequence of prophecies.
But also, you know what? Can you point us to what? Can you point us to this mythical person that has predicted all of this? Because you haven't said this. You keep saying, so what if someone did all of this? Wouldn't that be proof?
No,
because no one's ever done it.
No.
So it's not proof.
No, I'm just proposing the only way someone can objectively prove God's existence.
No, that would barely even prove that somebody's a psychic.
Kevin, there's a quote from Arthur C. Clarke that says, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. How do you tell the difference between a technology that could make good predictions and magic?
That's one of the that's a good point.
Yeah, I know it's a good point.
This.
That's why Arthur C. Clarke made it. That's why I've made it. That's why your proposal about this being some new and novel thing is not only is it well known, it's well debunked. If you can't tell the difference between a sufficiently advanced technology that can make predictions and magic or a god, then you don't get to claim that a god is a possible answer, a likely answer, or a probable answer.
Magic. Ooh.
Listen. All I'm saying is, I'll state it simply. I'll say it simply because I'm sorry. If everything I said happens, like if some God exists and he instructs someone to write a prophecy, blah, 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 and all these things happens, I will most likely take this guy's word that if he says in his book that a God showed me this in a vision, I would take his word. And I think the opposite view of not believing in this guy, even though all these prophecies come, which are very unlikely to happen, is not logical to have that position. It's
yeah,
illogical.
Kevin.
Why don't you just believe this guy who has no evidence or proof? Why don't you just
believe? The most likely
believe?
scenario.
Kevin.
No, it's not.
No. If somebody were able to consistently make good predictions, would you listen, Kevin? Please stop talking and listening. And let's just listen. If someone consistently, reliably made accurate predictions about the future, I would pay attention to their predictions, and I would probably give their predictions more credence than I would give somebody else's. But that doesn't in any way demonstrate that we're talking about a God or anything that's divine. No one is saying, hey, I've got a book that can make predictions. Let's just ignore it. What we're saying is you haven't presented a case to justify a God. At what point did you think, and by the way, there is no example of your thing ever happening. There is no book of predictions that have all come true in any sense.
True.
I know
I'm
it's
not
true.
denying that. I'm just proposing it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what God do you believe in?
I'm not here to answer this question. I'm just here.
No. You're here to answer this question now because you've wasted 13 minutes. No. You're here to answer this question now, or you can leave because you wasted 14 minutes of my time agreeing that no such testable circumstance has ever happened. And you're wrong about whether it would prove that there's a God. So now we get to talk about what God you believe in and whether your belief is rationally justified and whether Jovan and I share it, or we can move on to another caller.
I mean, you can move to another caller, but he's not going to give you.
I know I can move to another caller. I don't need your permission. I just did. So let's be clear here. Jovan and I are here on the Sunday show because we'd like to have conversations with people who are wanting to defend their belief and explain why we should share it. If you happen to be a God believer and you want to get to the front of the line by saying you're a God believer, but you only want to say, hey, there's a way to test for a God, but it's never happened, you're pretty much a liar. I mean, you're not as much of a liar as the last guy who was an atheist, but you're skipping past the entire purpose of this. One of my favorite newer streamers, who we've had on the show, is Dr. Blitz, and he and several others do this pretty consistently. They will have their list of topics or their topic of the day up there, and I'll be doing this when I'm doing my lives on my own channel. And it'll be like opposition only. And so the first questions that they tend to ask are, hey, do you believe in a God? Are you here to defend that particular God? And if their answer is no, then you're not on this show. Call in on some other show. And as soon as I run a show where someone can call, where I say, I'd like to have people call in and tell me what they think would prove a God, whether it's happened or not, call in on that show, Kevin. Because this ain't that show. But you don't get to use our rules of theists go to the front of the queue and then not defend your God belief? And the fact that you think you had something significant to share with us, and you wanted to pretend like I'm a liar for saying that I've dealt with this, we'll just say countless times over the last 20 years. I mean, that's pretty embarrassing, actually. I mean, whatever God you believe in, you should maybe ask it how to have these conversations in the future and what sort of thing you should say to us in the future, because this did not go your way on any level. I'm just at a loss.
I just don't know why people are wasting our time today.
We got it. We've got other callers on the line, and at least one of them's a theist. So, somebody in chat said I shouldn't have apologized to them. Yeah, Kevin, you should be apologizing as well. But at least, well, I don't know. Maybe Kevin wasn't a theist, because if you're not here to defend your theism, don't put theist in there. But here we go. And we might be repeating this a little bit because we've got Trevor from Oregon, pronouns are he, him. Trevor's a theist that doesn't necessarily think that evidence for God can be found or understood. There is evidence, but it's up to each person to find. Hey, Trevor, can you think of another subject where everybody gets their own evidence and evaluates it themselves as a path to understanding what's true?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like consciousness, like just being, I mean, like, you know, you wake up in this world and everyone says, hey, do all the rational stuff, do science. And then you're convinced by it and you believe it's true and you move along with them.
I have no idea what you mean or how that answers my question. You're saying that you don't think that the evidence for God can be found or understood. So if there's a God and we can't find or understand the evidence for it, how could anybody have a rational belief in that God?
Well, okay, so that was kind of the prompt that me and the screener worked together, because I just wanted to say I want to talk about God. But we were kind of on that path, me and the screener, saying
what God? It's like what God are you advocating for, and why should we believe He's real?
The one described by the Abrahamic faith.
Okay. So,
and why should you believe He's real? I don't really know that I can't point to anything out that is in your life that, you know, is a good reason, clearly.
Do you care if your beliefs are true? Like, do you have a good reason for believing in a God?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, what's your good
reason?
Is your reason internal or external?
It used to be just internal, and now it is both.
Okay, because an external reason would mean that you have some like physical evidence.
Well, but then, so that's kind of the confusion of the prompt there. It's like, I feel like I have evidence that is like so absolute for me that now I can't turn away, but I don't think it would be convincing to you. So I kind of don't even really want to get into my
And why the
piece
fuck
of
did
evidence.
you call? Why the fuck did you call?
Because I like talking to you, Matt, and I wanted to talk to you.
I don't like talking to you, Trevor, and you fucking knew that. So apologize.
What?
Apologize for wasting our time.
Oh, I mean, I feel like you're wasting my time. I called you to talk to you about God.
I'm wasting your time. You called
how can
me.
We waste your
you called
time?
me,
what?
And we have other people on hold, and there's a couple thousand people watching this, and I'm wasting your fucking time? Apologize, Trevor, or I'll ban you, and you will waste no more of anyone's time.
I'm sorry, sir. I really don't mean to offend you.
I don't care what you mean. You're a liar. God, what is going on? I mean, we take time out of our Sunday. I have family in from out of town that we could be visiting with. We're doing a show. We want to have good conversations. And I think I've been pretty clear about what we're looking for. And Trevor, who previously called in the other day to say that God is not just pretend and utterly failed, is now saying, oh, he just likes to talk to me. I don't like talking to you, Kevin. Or Trevor, sorry. Kevin and Trevor. Fuck them both. I'm not looking for new friends. I'm not your counselor. call recoveringfromreligion.org, a great organization where there are people there whose purpose is to talk to you and meet you where you are and listen to your little ramblings about how you think that there's evidence, but there's no way. This is how dumb Trevor is. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen and other. Trevor calls in to say that there's evidence for God, but we can't know that or understand it. So how does Trevor know there's evidence for God? Trevor calls in to say that he thinks he has a good reason for God, but he won't be able to convince us of that. If your reason can't convince us, it's not a good reason. If it's an internal reason, like God is speaking to you, then obviously, as Hume pointed out, revelation is necessarily first person, and to everyone else, it's hearsay, which means it's not as good evidence to any of us. But if God's actually speaking to you, if you have this internal witness, if you have the sensus divinatus, you should be able to demonstrate that in some way or provide some sort of an example that would maybe meet Kevin's criteria, even if it doesn't necessarily meet my criteria. Kevin is so dense that he thinks when he calls in and wastes everybody's time by not engaging with the actual prompt, that we're wasting his time.
Trevor.
I'm wasting his time, not Jovan. I wasted Trevor's time. I did Kevin again, didn't I?
I just don't understand. Like, maybe we do need to set some sort of opening questions, like, because it's insane. Like, if you're going to call in, we have, at least on my side, specific topics on the board that we're talking about and specific questions that we're asking. So, like, if we're saying, hey, convince us to be Christian, you're like, well, I can't really convince you guys. Then why pick up the phone? If all you want to do is, well, that's why. All they want to do is preach. I don't care about preaching. You're not going to preach on this show. You're not going to stick to your script. You're going to engage in the prompts, or you're going to be asked to skedaddle.
I'm not going to ban Trevor yet, because hopefully Trevor will learn how to actually defend his beliefs. But what makes it difficult is that I'm going to address some of the complainers right now. I saw some comments on clips where somebody's like, this was an obvious troll. I don't know why you guys don't know that. Sorry, I'm not as psychic and knowledgeable as you are. Congratulations. Maybe you should start your own show and show us up. Show us how it should be done. On the other hand, there are very few things that a troll could claim, as is evidenced by Kevin, that wouldn't be consistent and believable as something someone genuinely believes.
Also, half the time they're not trolls. Like, you guys don't understand. Half the time these people actually believe this shit. They're not actually trolls.
But the thing is, I operate this show, and as I'm sitting here deciding how long we let a caller go on, there's a number of things that I consider. Number one is, how many other calls in the queue? How is the call going? Do I feel, with my experience, and I can be wrong, that there's some likelihood of progress on the subject, that there's likelihood of getting some sort of message that people would actually benefit from? I don't really care how many people in chat are saying hang up or whatever else. We don't even allow that stuff. At the end of the day, this is about me and Jovan. Sorry. We're in the sense of who's going to make the decisions about directing the show. So it's me again, and mostly me. But the other thing is, this isn't an environment like you having a conversation at home or at coffee or on an airplane or whatever else. I don't just have one person here. I've got a number of people in the queue, and I have to consider, what are they going to say? Is it going to benefit people? Is the audience going to get something out of it? And how rude are we being to everybody else? And so when people are like, Matt, you're so rude to callers. No. In much the same way that Jovan pointed out, he has the shortest fuse for stupidity right now. I have the shortest fuse always for liars. I have a moderate fuse for stupidity. I have a short fuse for willful stupidity and ignorance. And I have maybe a heightened sense of justice and rudeness, where I feel that the people who are calling in, who waste our time waste our money, are being rude to the viewers and to the callers and to everybody who will watch this later. They're either having fun or they think they're doing something productive when they're not. Am I going to be wrong?
I do want to say one thing, because I think that some of the trolls will try to use this as a way to fuck with us. Is like, well, I'm going to call in and just waste all of their money. It costs like 0.4 cents a minute. Like I don't think like you guys aren't going to be able to call in and cause us to go bankrupt. Yes. So like that's I just want to be clear about that.
By the way, any of them that do that, I'm going to post your clip and I'm going to make it as well. I'm not going to post it. Arden's going to post your clip and make it as sensationalized as possible. We're getting those pennies back. Those pennies are going to get back.
In like you will make way more off your clip than you will waste calling into us.
And some of you should just be happy that I don't like post your phone number along with it. I'll never do that. We're not here to dox people, but I mean, it's wild to watch people call in on their actual cell phone. I have a list of cell phone numbers here in a text file. I don't have names next to them. It's just problem numbers. And so when I see them, I didn't put names next to them because it doesn't matter. They're going to change their name. They're going to do whatever. But I'll sometimes look over and see, oh, yes, I've definitely had a call from this. The nice thing is that our thing here is such that, so for example, I have 2 calls on hold right now, and there's 2 in the queue, and all of them are cell phone callers, and it looks like only one of them is called before. So most of these are new callers, and that makes me incredibly optimistic. When we're getting new folks calling in, I'm hoping that somebody out there is a Christian, Muslim, a Jew, or tied to some non-Abrahamic religion, and they are sitting there fuming in embarrassment at these individuals who are calling in and failing epically to present anything close to a decent defense of their religion. If I was still a Christian, if I was sitting out there watching these individuals who don't know shit about the Bible, who don't know shit about Christianity, who don't know shit about Judaism, calling in to be poor defenders, I would be reciting the verses about, I'm going to spit you out of my mouth. Depart from me, for I never knew you. Because 1 Peter 3:15 gives them an instruction to be prepared at all times to provide a reason for the faith that's within them. And so when you call in and you say, I've got a way to prove God, and you say, but first, literally, you go back and watch Kevin, you'll see my eyes. The second Kevin said, but he said, actually, I wrote it down. He said, before I do that, or but first, I'm no longer allowing for the rest of the day for sure. If I hear but first or before I do that, after someone has said, I'm calling in to present a case for God, no, you're going to present that case for God, or I'm going to move on to another caller who's not going to be disrespectful. If it turns out after you present your case, we have to go back and do some backtracking and define some things, fine, we'll do that. Call in, make your case, teach us something, show us what we missed. Please help us. If you're someone out there who genuinely believes we have a soul, I don't believe that. If you think there's a future for our soul after this death, after this life, I don't believe that. If you are someone who thinks that what we do here and now and what we know and understand and what we value and how we live impacts the disposition of our soul after our death, I don't believe that. But that would seem to be the single most important thing any of us could know and understand. This is not fun for me. I don't come in on Sundays and Wednesdays and whatever days, and I don't travel around doing debates because it amuses me. I'm not here to make Christians and Jews and Muslims and Scientologists look stupid. They do that all on their own, or they don't, because not all of them do. I'm here because this is important. Because what you believe impacts how you live your life, it impacts how you vote, and it has consequences for you and for everybody else. And if I'm wrong, I'd rather not continue being wrong. So help us. Piss off. Hey, you ready for more?
It sounded like you said, like you're saying for like, help us piss off. You know what I mean?
Help us piss off, but help us or piss off. There we go.
Yeah.
All right. So we got Jason calling from Theist. Jason's calling from California. Pronouns are he, him, is a theist who believes in a higher power and is calling to prove that it's real. Hey, Jason, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. Why don't you tell us what you
All right,
mean by
all right.
higher power and then why we should believe it?
Yeah, so I see God like not in like the gaps of what we don't know, but more so of like in the perfection of what we do know. So science, do you think that science kind of disproves God, or like what's your
I'm just a little
point on
confused on what
that?
you mean by the perfection that we.
So I think
as a 33-year-old man, I ain't never seen anything that was perfect except possibly, like
Math.
well, like the speed of light,
No, not
or
even.
the equation of gravity, or the distance between the sun and the moon, how everything's perfect, and if it were any different, then
It's-
stars
it's-
wouldn't
Distance
form,
between
or
the sun and
we
the
wouldn't
moon
be
isn't.
rotating
Wow.
around. Does that
What?
make sense? It's a little
Okay.
perfect.
None of that is
Like how
true
there's-
scientifically. Do you know
Yeah.
how big the hospitable zone is? It's huge.
Yeah, it's massive. Yeah, and then we're constantly finding
So
more
we
and more
didn't-
areas. That's kind of
But
besides
so
the
the
point.
Earth didn't. Well, no. That's exactly your point. Earth didn't just like lock into some perfect place. It had a pretty large range of perfect to pick from.
It's called the Goldilocks zone. Actually,
We're
it is
aware.
a perfect. It's a perfect ratio.
It's not.
Okay.
What about
It's
the
not
golden
perfect.
ratio?
It's not a perfect. Define perfect.
Oh my god.
Perfect is the way that life has to be for it to exist, right? So
Okay, Jason.
like-
that is not. There's not a dictionary in the world that would have a definition of perfect that involves the way life has to be.
yeah, what do you mean? If any of our mathematical equations were any different, if the speed of light constant was different, if gravitational pull
None
was
of these.
different,
All of
our
these are just.
entire universe
All of these
would
are
be
just is
completely
stuff,
different.
Jason. Hold
Here,
on.
Jason?
All of this is just is.
One at a
Like
time, please.
math just is.
Okay.
I just hate to break it to you.
Sorry, I don't believe that Jason's real. Jason, I'm going to mute you for a minute and I'm going to educate you. You don't tell us one at a time. I'll tell us one at a time. I asked you for a definition of perfect, and you provided a definition about what life needs. And I said there's not a dictionary in the world that would include that. Here, if you go to dictionary.com, perfect, being entirely without fault or defect, satisfying all requirements, corresponding to an ideal standard or an abstract concept, faithfully reproducing the original, legally valid, lacking in no essential detail, absolute, of an extreme kind, of relating to or consulting a verb form or verbal that expresses an action or state completed at the time of speaking, belonging to a consonant's union, fourth, fifth, and octave, which became augmented or diminished. That's in music, a perfect fourth, a perfect fifth, things like that. Sexually mature and fully differentiated, having both stamens and pistils in the same flower, to bring to final form. Oh, that's not perfect. That's perfect. I'll skip past that. So there we go. Those are dictionary definitions of perfect that have nothing to do with life. However, you're calling in to say you believe in a higher power and you'd like to prove that it's real. And I asked you to define your God, your higher power, and you said that God is the perfection of what we do know. And then you decided to dodge and immediately ask a question. Do we think that science disproves God? First, you must define God. And if that God is in fact testable, then science at least may be able to show that it is inconsistent with observations. But science doesn't prove or disprove. Science builds models that best describe reality based on the available information. Science doesn't make proclamations of truth. It doesn't speak in absolutes, and it doesn't deal with perfection. So we're going to start all over. Jason's a theist from California. Pronouns are he, him. He believes in a higher power. I'm going to unmute him, and Jason's going to tell us, he's going to describe for us what he means by higher power, because I don't know what higher power means. And then we'll see if there's a justification for us to believe in that higher power. So, Jason, what do you mean by higher power?
Yeah. So I'd like to get away from like the feelings aspect of religion and proving a God and like faith and stuff like that. I'm more interested in like mathematical precision. So I think the strongest.
Okay, Jason, You're really bad at this, and I'm going to help you. When I give you another shot, and I say, Jason, what do you mean by higher power? I'm asking you to define what you mean by higher power, because I don't know what higher power means. If your response to what do you mean by higher power is, yeah, I want to get away from the feelings aspect of religion, I'm more interested in the perfection of mathematics, that tells me nothing about higher power. I'm fascinated by mathematics. As a matter of fact, I watched a math video just this morning about proving pi, or pi arising, in a series of coin tosses. Thanks, Matt. But also that within that same structure, within all of that, you're finding things like, well, I'm not going to go down the math route. Let's wait. Jason's coming in. Jason's a theist from California, pronouns are him, who believes in a higher power. Hey, Jason, what do you mean by higher power?
I mean by higher power is that the universe doesn't just exist. It follows a specific complex code that suggests like a programmer of some sort, right? So it's like a...
Okay, I'm gonna mute you and pause. For clarity, when I say, what do you mean by higher power? And you say, the universe doesn't just exist. You then said, it follows a code like from a programmer. So you're suggesting, for clarity, that what you mean by higher power is whatever is behind the order in the universe, right?
Yeah, you kind of cut off there at the end, but what I heard you say is whatever is behind the order, and then you kind of didn't hear what you said there, but I think you kind of got the gist of what I was kind of going into.
Hang on. Yep. This is why I fucking mute you every time. You're on off at 900 miles an hour. It's really easy. So you're saying higher power. Just listen. Just listen. You're saying the higher power that you believe in is whatever is behind the apparent order and structure in the universe, whether it's perfect or not. That is what you're saying is the higher power, right?
Yes.
Is that thing an intelligent agent?
I believe it's intelligent. It's evidence of intelligent design, because going back to perfect, you may have a different definition of it, but the fact that these equations are perfect, the fact that if they changed any different numbers, just one number was changed on like the gravitational quotient or the speed of light constant or anything like that, then the universe that we see it as it is today would no longer exist. It would exist in a completely different like environment. It would look completely different. Life may have not been able to form. Like, does that make sense?
Jason, hold on, Jason. Matt, when you're done playing with your food, I have like quite literally the greatest art. Okay, great.
I'm genuinely done.
Jason, you believe there's intelligent design, correct?
Yeah.
And you believe everything was designed intelligently by God?
I think the building blocks of life were designed by God, and then everything from there kind of filters down through it, right?
Are you a creationist? Do you believe God also created? Do you also believe God created, all of human beings, animal kind, things like that?
I believe He created the equations that makes life possible. Like
well,
a programmer would create a video game,
design,
and they're creating.
That's not intelligent design.
It is.
No, it's not.
I'm not a creationist. I'm an intelligent designer, right? That's what I would when I go to code a video game. I'm coding in what the building blocks of that game's going to be, right? So then it could be procedurally generated based off of my algorithms, right?
No. You'd also have to create all the NPCs and design all the NPCs. What do you mean? You still have to create the environment,
the building blocks of life for single-celled organisms to turn into multi-celled organisms eventually through evolution, because the equations I've written in, it'll filter itself out into creating what we see today.
Evolution can't be intelligent design. Like, quite literally, they contradict each other.
How?
Because evolution's not intelligent.
How is it not intelligent? It goes until it doesn't work. It's only what means of operation is to try again until it gets as successful. That's a form of intelligence. because it's not doing the same
I'm sorry.
thing over and over again.
How do you think? How do you think?
different
Whoa,
result.
whoa, Jason, hold on, hold on. Whoa. How do you think evolution works there, bud?
Through what I just said, through trial and error and different stimuli and things kind of being entered into the environment, which is like different than what was already there. So it tries to adapt to it. So it either takes it in or it puts it away, right? Or expels it. And through all of this yes or no, ones and zero fucking arguments of like what it's going to adapt to, some things work, like eyeballs, for example. Like we needed eyes, and the eye evolved out of being a necessity for being able to like see our surroundings and see danger and protect ourselves.
Why would God in his wisdom create an intelligent design which needs to adapt? Wouldn't that design just be perfect from the start? How can something be perfect but need to adapt?
The equations are perfect, meaning that if they changed, then life wouldn't even be able to exist.
So
That's
all
what I mean. Like
all of the
blocks,
creatures, all of the creatures that died out, all of the creatures that are extinct now, why wasn't the equation perfect for them?
Because they didn't abide by the rules of life, so it didn't work for them.
How did they not abide by the rules of life? How did they not abide by the rules of life?
Because we have like the golden ratio and the way that
how did
DNA
the dodo bird not abide by? How did the dodo bird not abide by the rules of life? Specifically, be specific, please. I hate vagueness.
Evolution evolved it out because it wasn't needed anymore. It was used for something else.
Wait.
Was
it wasn't needed anymore? What does that mean?
The chain and evolve.
What does that mean? It wasn't needed anymore.
The fact that it wasn't able to be continuing or to evolve into something else, and it just kind of went extinct
perfect equation,
the other evolutionary programs around it.
Jason, that perfect equation that you have does not apply to every species. Not every species has access to this perfect equation.
No, every species does. That's why some.
So then, why are some species dead?
Out and some evolve.
How does that? So wait.
Of life, man. That's
what's
what I'm saying.
Wait. How does? Okay, we're not talking about the equation of life. You said there's a perfect equation that makes things evolve, correct?
There's a group of equations, yeah. Like
okay,
the golden
so the equation for evolution,
DNA structure,
not every single creature not every single creature has access to the evolutionary equation. That's what you're telling me?
It does, but it's through trial and error, man. So if it evolved for something
so God's perfect equation needs trial and error? How does a perfect equation need trial and error?
Yeah, so because that's how it works. That's how the equation works. That's
because that's how it works. I'm going to write that down. Next time somebody asks me to explain, Matt, real quick. Wait. I'm going to do an exercise real quick with Matt. I'm going to do an exercise just real quick with Matt. Okay. Matt, can you ask me how my microwave works?
How does your microwave work? Yes.
It just does.
Yes, I can ask you that question.
Great.
Pedantic boys in the
May you? Will you?
I did. How does your microwave work?
It just does. Magic.
Okay,
it just
so
works.
do you know how your car works? That doesn't mean that.
Yes, I know that it has a combustion engine.
Doesn't mean someone built it.
And I know that it uses that combustion engine to fire off gas. And
Jason,
it takes the energy from that fired off gasoline to run.
Jason, do you think
but that doesn't mean that nobody made it, right?
Jason, I'm trying to ask you a question.
Because you don't know how it works doesn't mean you don't know.
Jason, I'm trying to ask you a question. Are you going to let me ask you the question?
Yes, please.
Then stop talking. Do you think
it's hard when someone talks?
I'm sorry. I'm still fucking talking, Jason. So shut up. Clear?
That's a great way to have a conversation. Yeah, I'm still here.
Yes,
I was just saying that it cuts out when people talk over each other.
To not talk when somebody else talks. Yeah, that's
here, Jason. I'm going to mute you since you're incapable of doing this. Here's the question: everything that you've said about evolution is in conflict with everything I understand about evolution and everything that every scientist focused on evolution has ever said about evolution. So it's a really simple question. Do you think evolution has a goal that it is trying to reach? Go ahead.
Yeah, so evolution is the point of it is to describe, like the process of why the laws of
Jason,
nature
I
are set
asked
up
you,
the way it is
Jason,
to
I asked
to
you,
allow life
Jason,
to
I
emerge,
asked you,
right?
Jason, I asked you, Jason, I asked you a yes or no question. Do you believe that evolution has a goal that it is trying to reach? Yes or no?
Yeah, sustain life.
Okay. Okay. You are wrong. That is not consistent with evolution by means of natural selection. There is
Why don't
no
you
goal.
tell me?
No, I'm sitting here talking now. There is no goal. There is no agency. It is random selections, random mutations, random alterations.
Trial and error.
That's not trial and error. Trial and error is agency with a goal. Evolution is random mutations acted upon by the natural processes. That's what evolution by means of natural selection, that whatever can survive does survive. It has nothing. I'm still talking. Right? I'm still talking, Jason. It doesn't mean that whatever was determined to survive survives. It doesn't mean survival of the fittest. It doesn't mean whatever we wanted to survive survives. It means whatever could. I'm sorry. I'm still talking. I don't know why you're opening your mouth at all.
We're having a conversation.
No, we're not. I'm lecturing you because you're an idiot who doesn't understand the basic. Okay, I'm going to mute you because you're an idiot who doesn't understand the basics of evolution, and you're fascinated by your own brain and your ability to spew forth garbage. Evolution by means of natural selection. You should tune in. Arden, who's doing Skeptalk tomorrow night? Do we know?
I don't know off the top of my head.
That's all right. I caught Arden completely by surprise. That's my fault. But it may well be somebody like Forrest or Erica. And we have a number of experts on biological evolution. Doctors, people with doctorate degrees.
It's Erica and Aaron tomorrow.
It's Eric and Aaron. Cool. You get one of the best speakers on evolution tomorrow on Skeptalk, and a person who not only has a doctorate in physics, but is also Bible scholar as well, knowledgeable about all this stuff. Evolution by means of natural selection is the scientific label for the model that describes the diversity of life. At no point in that model is there intent to reach a goal. Your armchair understanding of its goal is for life to continue is also fundamentally wrong. Evolution does not have the goal. It persists only because that continues to happen.
But Matt, I thought it was a perfect equation.
Yes. Meanwhile, I would agree that to the extent that, like, if somebody asked me about perfection, my number one answer is math. I love math. I think there is beauty and order, and the closest thing to perfection is within mathematics. The perfect circle can't exist. The Platonic ideals cannot exist in reality. A line has no width and therefore cannot exist as a thing in reality. These are abstract concepts. And that's the closest you're going to get to perfection, are abstract concepts and foundational principles in math. What we have in reality, we don't fully understand, but it's not best described as perfection. And it's certainly not best described as an intent to produce life. The gravitational constant, the Goldilocks zone, the strong nuclear force, the weak nuclear force, all of these things that permit us to exist, if they were changed, might have resulted in some different universe with some different type of life, saying, this whole thing was planned and it's perfect because I'm the end goal. It is monumental arrogance coupled with ignorance that allows you and others, you're not remotely alone, I used to believe the same things you do, to fundamentally misunderstand the science and see within it agency. Do you have a way to demonstrate, other than your perceived goals, which are not part of the biological evolution and for which you cannot demonstrate? There's no way for you to demonstrate. Well, here, I'm going to unmute you, and you tell me how you can demonstrate that humans were the goal of either a higher power or evolution at all. That's it. How can you confirm that we were not just the goal, a goal? Try that.
Oh, okay. So you kind of went over like a bunch of bunch of different topics right there, about like probably like 3 different.
Okay, I'm going to mute you because, wow. Listen carefully, Jason. I went through a bunch of topics because you wandered all over the place at 100 miles an hour to show how much you don't know. I asked a very specific question. This is your new goal. It is the only goal that you will be permitted to spend any time on. And until you meet that goal, you won't get to pick another subject. I'm tempted to ask you what question I just asked you, but I'll ask again. Are you able to demonstrate that human beings are in fact, or incredibly likely to be, the intended goal of a higher power or evolution by means of natural selection?
Yeah, we're like the universe describing itself, right? So the universe has to be loaded with the right information from the start, aka those algorithms, for evolution to occur, right? So the argument of like, oh, it's all just like completely random and some things die out and some things don't, and there's no like design or goal for it to achieve.
So the answer to my question is no, you are not able to demonstrate that human beings are an intended outcome of a higher power or of evolution. So I guess, go ahead.
I just really quickly want to point out, you have a big burden of proof here, Jason, and that's proving that those equations existed at the start of the universe, which you physically can't do.
So since Jason refused to answer my question with the no, that was true. Yeah. I guess my next question, Jason, and then I'll unmute you, is, do you care if your beliefs are true or if they just feel true?
Yeah, I believe that they're true because
I didn't ask you that. I didn't ask you that, Jason. I didn't ask you that. It's so wild. we can. I'm going to mute you again. You're doing a great job, Jason. A wonderful job of proving my point that people don't listen, don't think. They just wait for their turn to speak and get right back onto it. I didn't ask you if you believed them. I'm convinced that you believe them, or I'm willing to take your word for it that you believe them, or I don't give a fuck if you believe them. I asked you if you cared whether they were true or they just felt true. That's an either or that has nothing to do with whether or not you sincerely believe them. So your wonderful brain, designed in your mind as an intended result of evolutionary processes and the perfection of math and universe, was incapable, even on hold like you are now where nobody can hear you, of listening to my question, processing it, and answering it. This reminds me of the thing that I talked about at the start of the show about how IQ and knowledge and understanding are reliable predictors of whether or not you're going to be left or right and whether or not you're going to buy into nonsense. But also it reminds me of another study I saw, which is in the years that we've been monitoring IQ and reading comprehension, every generation has outperformed the previous generation until Gen Z. And then when we get to Gen Z, the decline starts. So Jason, how old are you?
Yeah, you cut off there for like 15 seconds. But you're talking about like intelligence or something like that, kind of ad homing me.
No, I didn't ad hom you at all. I'm getting ready to. How old are you?
I'm 27.
You're 27? So you're Gen
27,
Z.
27, buddy.
Yeah, you're 27. So you're Gen Z.
Yeah, but I would say that the way that this debate is unfolding, and like the fact that you kind of mute whenever like somebody's in the middle.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to mute you real quick so I can explain something to you, Jason. This isn't a debate. I get paid for debates. You can book a debate if you'd like to debate me on any of these subjects. You can do that and you can book a debate. This isn't a debate. This is a call-in show where your job is to present your case for something. And our job is to either agree with you or point out why we don't agree with you. That's what we're doing. This is not a debate. And you, like countless others, have presented a flawed case demonstrating your lack of understanding on specific subjects and your refusal to exercise any sort of comprehension of what we're saying to accurately respond to what we're asking you. And so that requires me, so that I don't lose my shit and the rest of the audience doesn't give up and stop watching, to put you on hold. And as predicted, what you're going to do instead of actually defending your case is to whine about how you've been treated. But I would encourage you to go back and watch all of the other callers to today's show and see how many of them needed to be put on hold. How many of them had to be asked the same question over and over again? How many of them failed to answer the question they were asked, even when it was explained a second time? So now I'm going to unmute you as the audience roasts you and laughs and tells you to cry harder and everything else. Let's just stop, Jason. Let's try to restart. So pay very close. I'm not going to unmute you yet because I don't want this to get muted out. You think there's a higher power that instantiated the mathematics that led to evolution by natural selection and did it with a goal. I do not think that is the case. Do you have a way to demonstrate that this is the case that goes beyond you find it really cool and unlikely for it to be something else? So once again, you have a way to demonstrate your case for this higher power's intent other than you find it really cool and you find it implausible that it's not the right explanation.
Yeah. So first off, are you open to having your mind changed? Or is this just...
Okay, I'm going to mute you again, Jason. I'm definitely open to having my mind changed, which is why I've been sitting here for 20 years asking people for evidence. You see, I used to believe the shit that you believe, and I used to believe religious claims. And then I got an understanding of both epistemology and reason and science. But I also learned how to have conversations where I don't let dishonest interlocutors constantly try to divert the topic. I didn't ask you to ask me any questions. I didn't ask you to evaluate. You're sitting here on a stage that you would never have, and you only have by my fucking grace. You're only getting a chance to spread your view because I permit it. And I keep giving you chances, despite the fact you keep demonstrating you do not deserve them. So once again, the question that I asked you, and this is the last time I'm going to repeat a question. The next time I'm going to make you repeat it back to me. And then we're going to go back to kindergarten or hang up. So the question I asked you was, do you have a way to demonstrate that this higher power with the intended purpose is real with something beyond you find it implausible that it's not? Try again.
So the same way that a programmer programs his like video game or whatever program he wants and has a specific goal for it to be completed, I believe, based off of the evidence, that when we have algorithms, like just on a human level, when we're implementing them into software or everyday things, that is kind of a way to kind of hold the mirror, so to speak, to an intelligent designer, because we know that things that follow these algorithmic rules, one, were created by us, right? So if we kind of just extrapolate up a level and we go to like that the universe has been loaded with these algorithms, that is kind of basically direct correlation of having something that is so fine-tuned that it has to follow specific rules, just like it would when you're building an engine or creating a program. Somebody created that, right? Just because we don't fully understand how it all works, maybe the only person who does is the creator of that, doesn't, to me, disprove the entire thing of like a car being real or a computer software being real. So I think that's one line of evidence. The other being
pause.
that
Pause.
Yeah.
Yeah, you went to something weird where you said it doesn't disprove reality. But how do you tell the difference between an action in a universe that is consistent with a perceived algorithm that was not designed versus an action in a universe that is consistent only with an algorithm that was designed?
Sorry, I didn't know if I was muted. So perceived, are you saying that you don't believe that these algorithms are are real? And is that just to clarify? Like, what do you mean by perceived?
Algorithms are, wow. How do you tell the difference between essentially the appearance of design and actual design?
The fact that it works.
No.
The fact that these
what do you mean? What do you mean it works?
Have to be followed.
Are you saying nothing can work or function unless it's designed intentionally?
I'm saying. Well, I guess you could extrapolate that far. Being designed by the creator himself. Yeah. Like if we didn't have all these loaded up algorithms for the universe to be working.
Jason,
go ahead.
Is absolutely everything in the universe designed?
If we're going off of an intelligent designer, yeah, that it started with the designer and then it filtered its way through to us.
Please stop saying if. Just answer the fucking question. Are you convinced that everything in the universe is a grain of sand designed by the intelligent designer?
He doesn't have to design the grain of sand.
I'm sorry, Jason. That's a yes or no question. You are now in You're now in kindergarten mode. You're now in kindergarten mode when I ask you a question.
What I'm saying.
You're now in kindergarten mode. When I ask you a yes or no question, you'll give me a yes or no, and you may get to proceed if there's a follow-up. Do you believe?
Let's do this in kindergarten mode. Yeah.
In kindergarten mode, we don't talk until we get asked the actual question. Do you believe?
Oh, I was going to explain it like a kid.
I'm sorry. In kindergarten mode, we don't talk. Is that clear?
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I get it. This is your domain.
No, this has nothing to do with my domain, you little child. It has to do with the fact that you are incompetent.
I'm only here because of you, right? This isn't Jovan's
yes, you're
show.
Only here because, okay. You know, how much longer do you think you're going to be here if you keep whining like a little bitch? This is really easy. We recognize the hallmarks of design has nothing to do with whether it's whether or not it's complex, whether or not it's ordered, whether or not it works. We contrast design with those things that are not designed. And generally speaking, we contrast those things that are constructed or manufactured and designed with that which occurs naturally. Haley's watchmaker argument, the classic one, is about you're walking along a beach and you find a watch, and you know when you find this watch that it was clearly designed because it's distinct from the things around it. It's not like the grains of sand. It has structure and it has apparent purpose. It is obvious. It is intuited that this watch must be designed. And in the same way, we see that when we look at human beings and the eyeball, DNA and cell structure, we see that and we intuit design. The problem with the watchmaker argument is that in a universe where everything is designed, you are walking along a beach of watches in a universe of watches, and you're picking up one watch and saying, this proves design. You have nothing to contrast it with. This is why I asked about the grain of sand. When you're talking about recognizing design, you can't just say because it works, because now you're saying everything is designed. Cool. That doesn't mean that everything was intentionally planned and constructed and designed, which is what we're talking about with design, the sort of design that would require a creator. How do you tell the difference between a system that sorts things by their size that occurs naturally, like water flowing down a river that sorts rocks into different strata, or a system that is designed to do the same thing in a different way? How do you tell the difference between a beaver dam and a bunch of sticks and mud that are blocking up a creek? One of those was built by a beaver or several beavers. The other one occurred naturally, just due to the processes in the universe that dictate how things move in a river that's flooded. If you have no way to tell the difference between those two, you wouldn't get to argue that one is designed and one's not, which might be why you're saying they're both designed. Great. You have a useless proposition of design, but also it doesn't in any way demonstrate any sort of higher power or an intelligence or a plan. The beaver dam isn't recognized as designed and pointing to a beaver because it works better. It's because all of the available evidence shows that the specifics of that beaver dam, the specifics of the way the wood is placed, the way it's gnawed, the way the mud is constructed, the way there's an entrance below and everything, all of those things are consistent with observations of beavers creating dams. All of the available evidence for this is consistent with observations of actual design from designers we can identify. And we make this distinct by comparing this beaver dam to this blocked up creek over here. You've now made the two of them equal and said they're all because there's some other higher level designer. And you have no way to demonstrate this, or that it was a plan, or that it was intended. You just say it works, and therefore it must have been designed. You have a model that defines design in the least useful way, and that doesn't in any way demonstrate the conclusion of an intelligent intended purpose that you'd like to be the case. So now I'll bring you back on, and I'd like for you to explain, because the question I asked you was basically, how do you tell the difference between the beaver dam and the other blockage? That's how I got to the grain of sand. How can you confirm that the workings of the universe are in fact the result of an intelligent designer? And before, just because I know you're already thinking to say this, and I'm right, you are allowed to tell me I'm right. You have exactly one universe. You have no other universes to compare it to. So you cannot talk about how likely X is or how unlikely X is without a designer. Because this universe might be the product of a designer, and it might be the product of naturally occurring processes that have no intent at all. You have to have a way to tell the difference between those two universes, and you have one universe. So, what is your method for telling the difference between a designed universe and an undesigned universe? Go ahead.
Beautifully said, by the way. But what I would say is, you say you're kind of saying like, oh, like something is natural and it's just naturally occurring. To me, that's kind of the same like faith-based argument of having an intelligent designer, right? So you say nature is just naturally occurring. It's just the way it is. Just nature just does that. I'm saying the reason why nature is like that is because of the algorithms that.
Okay, I'm going to mute you again, Jason, because now you're accusing me of saying something that I didn't say. Thank you for saying it was beautifully said. I've done this a while. The issue was you have a universe that is intentionally designed by a creator and another universe that is not intentionally designed by a creator. And I wanted to know how you tell the difference. I did not make any assertion about whether the universe is in fact designed. I did not make a faith-based appeal. I did not assert that the universe is not designed. I am dealing with your unfounded claim that it is designed. You are the one who has made a claim. You have a burden of proof. It's not up to me to prove it's not designed. I did not in any way claim it wasn't designed. What I said was the model of evolution by means of natural selection does not include or require or depend on and is not consistent with an intelligent design, which is completely separate from the universe thing. So stop making claims. Stop trying to avoid meeting your burden of proof by pretending that I exercised a faith-based position, because I didn't. And it's absolutely embarrassing, the defense mode that your brain goes into to avoid you making the case. So for the last fucking time, because I have other callers that we're now being rude to, here's a designed universe in one hand. It's intentionally crafted with a specific set of, I hate the algorithm thing, but let's call it algorithms that define how it's going to operate. Here's another universe. It may, I don't know, are you saying it can't have those same algorithms? What if it did? This universe is not designed. I need a way to tell the difference between those two universes, between the one that is intentionally designed and the one that is not intentionally designed. And if you cannot do that, you have no hope of establishing that you could possibly have a rational conclusion that this one fits our universe. That's what the whole discussion is about. You're saying you can verify that this one is in fact the result of an intentional designer. I'm asking, how do you tell the difference between a universe that's intentionally designed and one that's not intentionally designed? Last chance.
Yeah, so it's called it's like the fine tuning argument, and it would be you're asking. So if you changed another universe,
You're muted again. I'm not sure, but I think you made my co-host leave.
No, I had to pee. I had to pee.
I don't need you to tell me it's the fine-tuning argument. Because it might not be. By the way, there's not the fine-tuning argument, just like there's not the cosmological argument. These are categories of arguments. There are fine-tuning arguments. There are arguments that are based on the anthropic principle. There are moral arguments. I just need to tell you, what is the method that we can, this is it. I swear, Jason, if anything else comes out of your mouth other than, here's how we can tell the difference between a universe that was intentionally designed and results in X and a universe that wasn't intentionally designed and results in X, we're done. So try it again. How do you tell the difference between a universe designed to produce X and a universe that was not designed but produces X?
yeah, if anything was changed, the universe wouldn't fucking exist, right? You change the gravitational quotient by 1, there'd be black holes everywhere. That's what I mean. That's why it's all so fine-tuned. You wouldn't know because it wouldn't exist.
Goodbye, Jason.
This is the only way that life can exist.
Goodbye, Jason. Goodbye, Jason.
All righty.
If you change anything, it would just be black holes. Okay. So your assertion is, it's designed because that's the way it is. Cool. All right. I did that. And apologies to Jovan. We have another caller that wants to speak about evolution and intelligent design or divine creator. Are you logged into Call In Studio?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to let you take it, and I'm going to go pee because that's the way it should be.
All right. I'll take the next one. Go pitter patter and let's get at her. All right, we're bringing up Mark, he, him from New York. Mark, you're on the line with Jovan. Matt will be back in just a second. Mark, I assume you are Christian theists.
No, I'm actually I'm not. I was raised Jewish, but I'm actually believe more of the Gnostic text over all the other ancient texts. Since I did look into the Quran, New Testament, I do know the Old Testament. I know Hebrew, and Gematria. So I would like to discuss like numerology, the definition of how you guys would, like whatever definition you guys would use for consciousness versus my own, just to see if there's anything I could learn from. Did you hear me?
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
Oh, you missed that? Say it again?
The other host is away, and Jovan's power just went out, so we're going to have to let you go, or I'm actually going to put you back in the queue.
Yeah.
Damn. Y'all, my mouth was full with food when that happened too, so I am so sorry for these awful sounds. I'm going to try to not let there be any dead air. We can just look at this picture of Jovan's lovely face while we wait. Um, so Matt
I'm
is
sorry, did
actually
we
queuing
lose
up right
Jovan?
now. Matt, are you able to hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. So
Did we
Jovan's
lose
power went
Jovan?
out.
Oh, that's.
Oh,
Oh my
actually,
gosh.
you're muted on your end.
No, I'm not.
I'm not able to hear you though. What's going on?
I'm not muted.
Oh, I know what's up. Chat can hear you, but I can't because I don't have my. I'm set up for screening calls, not for listening to the show. There we go.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes. Okay, I got you. Sorry.
So now I'm gonna get all over Jovan because I let him go pee and I didn't have a power outage. How dare he?
He sent a picture in the Discord chat of a selfie of him in front of a computer that's completely turned off.
I was going to go down and get myself an iced tea. So why don't I have a talk with Mark while we're waiting for Jovan to get back? And if you have a chance, my wonderful love, could you get me an iced tea?
Yeah, I'll go get you an iced tea. It looks like Jovan's coming back now too. So you get started back up with Mark. We'll start fresh and I'll plug Jovan back in once he refreshes.
Sweet. Hey, Mark, it's Matt. I apologize for all of the tech stuff that happened all at once. It was a perfect storm. How are you?
Oh no, it's no problem at all. Yeah, so I'm just here to discuss a variety of topics. I believe I'm somewhat knowledgeable, since I'm not religious, but I actually do like read if I were to choose a text to believe in, I would look at the Gnostic text, which seem to be most like, I don't know.
What God do you believe in, Mark?
With the Gnostic scriptures. You know, like
No, what God do you believe in? What are the characteristics of your God?
Oh, I believe in source. It's not a human. It's not an individual. It's a basically divine, intelligent creator that created the universe. And
how can something that's not an individual be a creator?
Because we are all fractals of source, creator. We are basically projections of our.
I'm sorry, Mark. I was asking, Mark. I need you to just talk in like a single sentence and pause, because we are not remotely in the same reality right now, and I need us to get as close as we can. So you said that you believe in source, and it's not an individual, but it's the creator. And I didn't understand how something could. I'm sorry. I'm still going. I don't understand how something can be the create. Just don't say okay. Just don't say a thing, or I'm going to have to mute you. Wait until I ask you a question and say, what do you think, Mark? Clear?
Yeah, I'm waiting.
Thank you.
Correct.
I didn't understand how something could not be an individual, but could be the creator. And when I asked you, you said, oh, it's because we're all fractals. None of that makes any sense to me. None of that that's all one big non sequitur. So what are the properties of the God you're advocating for?
Okay. Can I speak now? I'm okay to speak? Okay. So basically, we are all fractals of source creator. So what you call a God is not an actual individual. It's basically, I don't even know it's beyond our comprehension, because.
Okay. Goodbye, Mark. Goodbye, Mark, and I'm going to explain. Goodbye, Mark, and I'm going to. No, you don't get any questions. You don't get any questions. I said we are not in the same reality, and you just demonstrated it. You just presented a wall of. I'm going to let you ask a question. I'm going to bring you back. I'm going to let you ask your question, because you presented a wall of absurdity that makes me want to vomit my brain out, stir it up in a blender, and feed it to you. We are all fractals of source creator, and what you call a God is not an individual. First of all, what I call a God is irrelevant. We're talking about what you called in. You identified as a theist. A theist is someone who believes in an individual agent God. Period. You've now defined that away. You say we're all fractals of source creator. That makes no fucking sense. You and I are not in the same reality, and I don't see any hope of any productive conversation ever coming from this. But you know what I'm going to do, Mark? I'm going to go against my own better judgment, because a 2-minute call just isn't fair to anybody, especially after waiting on hold for half an hour. So you said you had a question. I'm going to bring you in so that you can ask your question, and let's see if we can prove me right. Mark's calling from New York. Mark's pronouns are he, him. He's a theist who has a question. Go ahead, Mark.
Yes, I'm just curious, how would you define consciousness? Was I heard?
I heard you.
Me? Oh, I'm just curious how you.
I don't have a definition of consciousness. To me, yeah.
I could give my definition if you'd like, and then you can
No,
tell
I
me
wouldn't.
what you think of it.
I wouldn't like your. I wouldn't like your definition of consciousness, Mark.
Because you believe it's going to be too esoteric. It's not going to be. It's more. It's not that. It's not that.
No,
esoteric.
no, Mark. Not only is it because I believe it'd be too esoteric, but I believe it's because I don't give a fuck what your definition of consciousness is. I don't see how it's relevant to the theistic claim at all. Or do you believe in a theistic God? Do you believe in a God that is an agent?
Believe in yes, a divine creator.
How is that possible without it being an individual?
Because not everything in the universe has to be an individual. Like, how do you define an individual?
But every agent has to be a fucking individual, Mark. That's what agency is. That's what an agent is.
Okay, so define consciousness for me then.
No, Mark, I'm not going to define consciousness for you, because it doesn't fucking matter what it is, because you're a liar, because you're a confused, delusional liar who is not a theist. I'm not defensive. I'm offended. I'm offended that you, like many other people, say you're a theist in order to get on here when you're not. You're not here to defend a theistic God. You don't know what agency is. You are not tuned into the same reality I am. And if I continue to talk to you, it will just be bad for all of us. And I will get shit on for beating up on someone who is not in the same reality that I am in. You don't need my definition of consciousness. You don't need anybody's definition of consciousness. You need to defend a theistic God, or you need to fuck off. Now, which one's it going to be? I'm going to unmute you. You tell me, are you going to defend a theistic God, or are you going to fuck off?
Well, I am going to, through my definition of consciousness and why we were created.
Nope, you're going to fuck off. Bye.
I guess I missed some fun.
Yeah. I got a call for you.
I go to take that call and just everything dies. Whole computer shut off. I'm just like, what? And then I notice that there's a giant thunderstorm happening. So it could happen again. But for now, I'm here.
I'm pretty sure that I've taken calls from Mark before. I probably shouldn't make any comments at all, because it's just unfair. I apologize if my frustration see, when Jovan's not here, I'm just bad. So it's like, this is not Jovan's fault. It's not the call screener's fault. It's not even Mark's fault. I have zero interest ever in anyone who would say something like, we are all fractals of the source creator, and what you call God is not an individual, but it's no, that's not even bong rip. That's I need to be medicated and monitored type of thinking. And I apologize genuinely to Mark and to everyone else. I don't do well with that. It is tied to some interactions I've had with people very close to me in the past who were absolutely divorced from reality. This is my fault, and I need to fix this. I have I will have therapy tomorrow, and this will be a point of discussion because this is almost triggering of having to deal with someone so divorced from reality. And I apologize that it happened live. There's a call here that is best for Jovan to take anyway. And so I will take a breather.
I think you're being too hard on yourself, Matt.
I might be, but I'm trying to be better, and I recognize that was shit, and the shit part was me. I could have been better. Anyway, Kenny is calling. Kenny's an atheist from West Virginia. Pronouns are him. Says capitalism is good in its most purest form and can benefit everyone. And that's why I said this one's better for Jovan, because while I completely disagree with Kenny, I am not in a headspace to do this at all.
Hey, Kenny, what's up? Kenny, can you hear us?
Oh, so yeah, I can hear you.
All right, cool. Kenny, are you going to convince me and Matt that capitalism is good? Do you think you have that power?
I'm going to attempt to.
Okay, well, Kenny, why would capitalism be good?
Okay.
Or let's start. Let's start at the very basics really quick before we get there. What is capitalism?
So capitalism would be an economic system where the economy is driven by competition.
I would disagree with that definition of capitalism.
What would your definition be?
An economic system in which the means of production are privately owned.
That's part of capitalism.
I would say it's the biggest part of capitalism. You can have competition with the means of you can have an economic system driven by competition that's completely state owned. Would you call that capitalism? No.
No, I wouldn't call that capitalism. But
exactly.
Can you give
so the
me
competition
an
isn't
example
the
of
linchpin
a state-owned
here.
economy that is competition driven?
I'm not saying that there is one. I'm saying you could have one, and you would not call this capitalism.
You could have one.
Exactly. So then capitalism has nothing to do with the competition aspect. It has to do with who owns production.
I mean, if you look up, I'll look it up right now. If you look up capitalism in Webster's dictionary, it is going to mention competition driving the marketplace.
What part aren't we connecting about here? Because if I type in capitalism into Merriam-Webster, I get an economic system characterized by private or corporate ownership of goods, which is, what I said, the privatization over the means of production.
Okay.
So we can agree that capitalism would be a system of private ownership, right, over the means of production, which would be land, labor, capital, and technology, then we are in agreement here on what capitalism is. Now we can talk about why we think that would be good.
Well, I mean, you're shutting down the whole argument already.
Well, how am I shutting down the argument?
No, well, because at this point, any attempt to talk about how to say something like health insurance eliminates competition in the medical sector of our economy, and thus that drives up prices because the health insurance companies, which for the majority are privately owned, at least in America, except for our few social systems that provide that type of
You don't think
assistance.
there's competition in the healthcare marketplace? There's multiple insurance companies. There's multiple hospitals. There's multiple pharmaceutical companies. What do you mean? Where would the competition not exist?
Insurance companies, the health insurance companies dictate what the pricing is when you go to the doctor.
Health insurances don't dictate prices.
You're not even sure what it is.
Insurance doesn't dictate the prices. That would come from the hospitals. Hospitals dictate the price. Insurance pays the price. Insurance actually works to negotiate the price down. We lost him. Okay. Well, I tried, Matt. I gave it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, it's an area that I don't know enough about. I mean, I'm not an advocate for capitalism. I don't. I've always been an economic idiot, both irresponsible with my money and not understanding the broader things well enough. I get the basics. I probably know more than just like the average Joe. But I tend to be focused more on other things. Like I didn't monetize my YouTube channel till a year ago, December, despite having done this for ages. I left who knows how many hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting, maybe more, because YouTube, I'm like, it could have been a million by now. There's a couple 100,000 subscribers and YouTube wasn't showing it to people. That was pretty dumb. And I had good reasons, I thought, for doing it, but it turns out those reasons are bad, not because they should be bad, but because the world doesn't give a shit. Like, I didn't want to monetize because I didn't want people doing, oh, look, Matt's just doing this for clicks and views and money. And yet they said that anyway. And it didn't stop any of the people who are absolutely doing it from clicks and views and money from not only making money, but misinforming people in a massive way. And so despite being, OG about some of this, I've been kind of like on an uphill return streak treadmill right now. But there was an integrity reason for it. And it turned out, while I think that should matter, it really doesn't that much. Just like I think reasoned arguments and evidence should change minds. But it turns out it doesn't change enough minds. And there are quite a few that don't give a fuck about that. So I don't know enough about capitalism. I just see the effects, and I am convinced this is not remotely the best way to do things.
Yeah, I think it's so odd when you have somebody who starts the conversation not knowing, or at least giving like a partial answer to what capitalism is, like saying that, well, capitalism is just like competition is just really silly. There was competition in feudal societies, and I wouldn't call feudalism capitalism. There's competition in trade and barter societies, and I wouldn't call them inherently capitalism. So I don't know, just really, really weird.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and this is really basic. I think competition can be a good thing, and it can also be a bad thing. It's one of those things where it's like, if you and I are in competition for resources to survive, I don't think that thing's a good thing. But if we're in competition for the benefits of progress that help us all, then that might drive some progress. But that's kind of a broader human nature thing. And capitalism has resulted in the biggest income disparity at a gross, like disgusting gross, not like math gross. Well, math too, in a disgusting way. And what's happening here is that the billionaire ruling class need and have successfully managed and are getting better at making us all fight each other instead of fighting them. And any day now, I expect them to shut down all of our access to challenge them with free speech, with posts on YouTube, with posts on TikTok or Insta or wherever you're doing your stuff. I'm expecting it every day. And when that happens, some of us who've been doing this for the longest time that can't like transition back to a regular job as easily, like I'm cooked. And yet, despite that, I still don't do things just for clicks and money. I'm genuinely, I'm happy for the super chats. I'm happy for the people that support us. Thank you. Please keep doing it. You're keeping me in healthcare, which is now costing me 50% more per month this year than it did last year.
I'm up. Mine's up 100%. I went from paying about 200. It was like $180 a month to now I'm paying 400 a month.
I went from 1,000 a month to 1,500 a month.
You probably pay for a much higher plan than I do.
And it's just me. And despite the fact that it's not supposed to consider, pre-existing conditions, I've had triple bypass. I'm diabetic. And so it's really easy for them to just gouge me. We've got another caller I want to get to because believe it or not, this caller has been on hold for 2 hours and 20 minutes. And holy crap, that's some dedication. And I have no idea what this is about or how it's going to go. But Connor's calling from Kentucky. Any or all pronouns are acceptable. Connor, how can we help? Well, thank you for your patience.
I kind of just wanted to talk about one. How did I put this to the call screener? One way to sort of combat the idea of objective morality when talking to theists that I don't often see a lot of posts on here, or just really any of the YouTubers, streamers, anything that I watch. And that's like talking about axioms as like rulers for objectively measuring subjectively chosen values. Like they'll be like, oh, so murder is okay because it's subjectively chosen, but it's like how I can say a foot is a foot is a foot objectively, but the length of a foot long ruler was subjectively chosen however fucking long ago. If that makes sense.
Well, my go-to example for years has been chess, because the structure of chess is essentially a subjective and somewhat arbitrary, but there is an objective evaluation of any move you do with respect to the goal. And the goal is also subjective. Generally, people are like, oh, the goal is to win. And I would argue that in chess, the goal is to not lose, because draws are often an acceptable thing. But once you establish the goal, the evaluations then become objective. But there's nothing about the goal that is objective.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's oh, sorry, Jovan, were you about to speak?
I guess I am still kind of confused on the question. Can you just rephrase it to me?
It's less of a question and more of just like a discuss. Like, I guess the question would be like, do you think that this would be useful? But
oh, I get you. I get what you're saying.
Just specifically talking about like or using the word like axiom for these discussions.
No, I think the second you start using jargon, you lose like so many people. They're just gone.
But, like,
they're
I know
out.
like jargon, but you can literally just explain it as like, this is just like a base belief. It's subjectively chosen.
So then why we don't even need to say axioms? You just say beliefs.
Yeah.
I would always go with the more colloquially used term 100% of the time.
Okay.
At least when we're having conversations about philosophy, because you're going to lose people. Like, it's different if you're having like a conversation about something like medical or like science or whatever. But people check out on philosophy conversations so fast. If you can't if you I can't tell you the amount of times where I've had to, and I honestly want to start taking it. Justin and Dalton, who do their own separate shows, now have Philbro rules on people who call into philosophy, and like, it's genius, because I guess a big issue is callers think when they're hearing jargon, they kind of think this person just wants to sound smart. They just want to appear like the smartest person in the room, not they're trying to have a conversation to convince another person. Unless you have two people who are both really good at philosophy. Axiom. And then in that case, wait, let me just, one clarifying thing. If you have two people who really understand philosophy and they're using jargon, then it becomes super fucking interesting. Because they don't have to spend time explaining the jargon.
Mostly to combat Philbro.
They just get to go blah, 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 and it's like, ooh, now this is smart. So yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it doesn't like, this is partially to combat like the whole Philbro, you don't have objective morals thing, but you could also like, I guess my thought is like, even if you don't use the word axiom specifically, you can basically just use the colloquial definition of like, every person has some base belief I think I've heard in your show, it's like I value personal autonomy, and then below that I value like personal freedom, or just freedom in general, and then human well-being, and I can use those things as, even though they're subjectively chosen, I can still use them as a ruler, or like you said, Matt, like they're like the rules of chess. Like, here are my rules of my game of morals. And even though those rules were arbitrarily chosen by me, they're still rules that I can apply objectively to any given like thing that you throw at me.
I mean, no offense, Connor. I gave a talk probably a dozen or more years ago, maybe 15, called The Superiority of Secular Morality, and it sounds like you're paraphrasing it.
I would have been like 6.
Okay, well, it has existed the entire time. I'm not accusing you of anything, but you're saying, I don't ever hear this. And I'm like, I gave this lecture to some extent when you were 6. And then Sam Harris released The Moral Landscape, which was a version of what I was talking about. And then I stopped giving that lecture because I could just largely point to Sam's book. I mean, don't take this the wrong way, because I have very little to disagree with on this, but you're calling in to basically say, you don't hear a lot of people talking like this. Okay. I do.
I'm sorry. I guess it's just like on a lot of these shows, I feel like there's like always not always, there's oftentimes when this discussion comes up of like objective morals, it feels like the caller can just like not understand, or like there's like a bit of a moment of speaking past each other where there's like a lack of understanding of how subjective morals can work.
I think it's different than that. I think the problem is these people don't know what objective or subjective morals would be.
Yeah, they confuse objective with absolute.
Yeah, they quite literally have no idea, because when Matt does this all the time, when we tell them that like an objective moral would be something mind independent, they're like, I don't get it. Why wouldn't my morals be objective? I'm like, because there's a subject. Like, they just don't know what objective and subjective even mean.
And it doesn't even just apply to the moral. I mean, this is every conversation well, not every conversation. That's me being hyperbolic too. This is the bulk of miscommunications and confusion on most of the calls is because of a general ignorance, and I mean that in the sense of unfamiliarity with the subject at hand. And everyone is being not just an armchair philosopher, but a clueless armchair speculator about philosophy, and they're going with their feels, even though there's been a lot of work done in this thing. As a matter of fact, I want to point out that just the other day, a hero of mine, not on morality, but on epistemology, Susan Hawk, who was a professor, a philosopher, who developed something called foundherentism, which is a merging of foundationalism and coherentism in the realm of epistemology. She died the other day. And I had been for many years trying to reach out to her to get a sit-down interview. She wouldn't want to do a call-in show, but to do a sit-down interview, because there's so many questions about epistemology. And I think, we hear about the dudes in philosophy and the Phil Bros all the time. This is a woman who was an absolute giant and easily one of the greatest inspirations for me that I don't mention frequently enough. And so my condolences and thoughts to her family and friends, and my eternal gratitude for giving a name and a structure to something that I, as an armchair philosophy hack, tried to put together but couldn't quite get to. Anyone who hasn't looked into foundherentism, and it may not be right, but anybody who hasn't looked into it, you should. And while this isn't about morality, it reminded me of it, and I have to say that. So thank you and goodbye, Susan. And I got one more call to get to with only about 10 minutes left. And since we're seemingly mostly in agreement, I'll say thank you and goodbye, Connor, and appreciate your patience for 2.5 hours waiting for just a few minutes.
Do you mind if I ask, you brought up a talk you did, you said it's the the something of secular morality, the superiority of secular morality.
Yes.
Is that on like YouTube, or is there like a word
yes? And if you're yes, it's on YouTube, and a moderator already posted a link to it.
Oh, okay. I'll try to find it. And also, I would like to just say, like, I understand having to go to therapy and stuff. I'm sorry your day has been horrible, and I really do hope that it gets so much better and you have a good week. Both of you.
It'll get better for Matt as soon as he hangs up the phone on idiots.
I'm going to go hang with family and pick up my dog. It's going to be great. But yeah, it's the superiority of secular morality, and I don't know how many years old it is. I would guess it's probably close to 15. But anyway, thanks, Connor.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me, both of you.
Yeah. I'm upset that capitalist caller hung up, man.
It's disappointing. All right, but we do have a theist caller to finish this show, and
yeah, I've only got about 5 more minutes for me because I got to go get over to calling it now with Jimmy.
Yep, I'll let you go first. Ryan's calling from Texas. Pronouns are him. Wants to say, if we start at absolute zero, how do we build the world? I don't know. Hey, Ryan, how are you?
Hey, doing good, man. How you doing, brother?
I'm exhausted, but I appreciate you calling, and also we've only got like 9 minutes left at most, so I will stop talking and let you get your point.
Okay, first of all, I want to say I've watched you often. I watched specifically your debate with Jordan Peterson. I thought that was very, very interesting, and I thought Mr. Peterson missed a lot of opportunities. And I just, I wanted to give you all due respect, man. Respect your thought processes. But I wanted to let you know, first of all,
Thanks.
I am a Christian, and I did go through my atheist experience. I completely lost faith in God due to very, very, very traumatic childhood. And I just said, if there is a God, this would not be happening. But then I had supernatural experiences that showed me that God exists. And I kind of started at, basically, if we start at absolute zero as our foundation, how do we build out what we see? So that's my question for you. How do we build out what we see starting at absolute zero? I mean, we start at negative 459 degrees and there's no energy. Where do we get energy from? And how do we build out what we see?
What? I don't think we do. What is? I don't know. I'm so confused at what you're asking. Like,
it sounds like you're asking, how can a universe begin without a God?
Yes, and when I say God, let's qualify that as, I'm not talking about Jehovah.
I got it. It's easy,
I'm not
Ryan.
talking about Jesus.
Ryan, I didn't say you were. Your question is, how can a universe begin without something capable of beginning it? Okay.
Absolutely.
And the answer is, I don't know. And I don't know that it's fair to talk about a universe beginning. We can't explore any other universe but this one. And even mathematically, we get stopped at the Planck time, or at the Planck length past the T0 origin. And since the Big Bang cosmology model includes time as beginning with the expansion, then it's absurd to talk about before the Big Bang. And so there is no point in time where the universe didn't exist. All it did was change. And I would recommend tuning into Skeptalk tomorrow and asking Dr. Aaron Adair thoughts about origins of the universe, because neither myself nor Jovan, are likely to have
I just don't find it to be a question that like really interests me. Like, I don't know how we get to here, and I don't really care, right? Like, I think the answer isn't like by something creating us to here. I think we just happen to get here. I mean, I don't believe there's any like evidence to this really on a physics level, but I'm pretty much locked into the universal constant. Like, the universe is a constant. It's always been here. There's never been a creation to it. It has just always existed.
The other thing is, even if we don't have any understanding of how it began, that means we don't have any understanding of how it began. There's no reason to think that God is a possible, plausible, or probable explanation for anything about either the origin, expansion, or sustaining of the universe.
Okay. So I have another point, question, and just getting your perspective. So how do we explain systems within systems within systems. We're talking millions of systems across Earth's ecosystems. And all of these systems are systems within systems integrated into a cohesive system that reproduces life.
I'm sorry, can we use a word that's not system? Because that just broke me. You said the word system so many times that I have no clue what you're asking me.
Okay, so a system is a set of interrelated elements.
I know what it is, but like
processes.
it just feels like we're
Okay.
saying how do we system with a system inside of a system with a system plus a system?
Yes,
what are we asking?
exactly.
Like what's
So we have a nervous system, skeletal system, digestive system, reproductive system. All of these systems just within the human body. And outside the human body, we've got ecosystems of plants, dirt,
Matt's
rock,
got to take it.
wind,
Matt,
temperature.
really quickly, I just want to say goodbye to Matt because I got to go get to the other show. Matt, it's been a pleasure, friend.
Thank you, bud.
As always. See you later.
No, you got to go. Go have fun. Ryan, I'll answer your question, and you won't like it.
Okay.
But I'll do it only on the agreement that you tell me how you know that you had a supernatural experience, okay? I'll do it first, but I want you to tell me, how do you know that you had a supernatural experience rather than experience that you decided to call supernatural? So the answer to your question about systems within systems is that systems are abstract categories that we use to package things so that we can understand them. A nervous system is described as a nervous system to make it distinct from the circulatory system. But both of these are part of a biological system. It's how we categorize it. There's no necessity to say, ooh, this is a system that works with this system. These things, according to evolution, evolved together. And we divide them based on their function, not based on their origin. And so life, as we understand it, we don't have an explanation about Genesis of the origin of life, but we have explanations of how it likely rose. We have an understanding of the basic building blocks of life and that they are prevalent throughout the universe. But once life begins as a simple single cell replicating organism, it alters, and the alterations that distribute the functions within that cell to perhaps multiple cells, and then multiple cells distribute their functions elsewhere. It's like, hey, I'm doing these two jobs, and all of a sudden a mutation happens to where this job gets kind of separated into a slightly different area. All it takes to get from that to a nervous system and a circulatory system, and even out to the ecosystem, which is still just an abstractive construction that we put together, is time. And it's the brain that is evaluating those that is defining what a system is. It's not like a top down of, oh, let's make this system and let's make that system. We need this system. We need this system. It is instead our attempt to categorize and understand. It is a little bit like how we divide people based on ethnicities, when no matter, like Jovan and I have distinct appearances, but that's a simple phenotype that's just about differences in the genes, and it's because we come from different lines of the exact same species. And so we are almost identical, and yet we see things that allow us to divide this, which is why a lot of people say that things like race are social construct. And a lot of the systems that you're describing, I would say, are similarly abstract constructs. And there's only like a minute left for you to explain how you know that you had a supernatural experience.
Okay.
But
so in the last minute, I would like to ask you about default positions. And if you want to know my experience,
no. And now I'm hanging up on you. Goodbye, Ryan. That's unfortunate. Ryan, call me back some other time when we're not at the last minute of the show if you got more questions. I answered your question based on the agreement that you would then do the thing that interests me, which is show that you can have an experience that you warrant describe as supernatural. If you want to have a discussion about default positions, call in. I'll be live Wednesday. I'm not even sure if I'm going to have a co-host or who the co-host is going to be on Wednesday. But right now, we're getting ready to turning you over to calling it now with, is it Jimmy and Jovan? Is that why Jovan had to go, I think?
Yes.
Sweet. I want to thank everybody who called in. Thank Jovan for coming and hanging out with me. Thanks to all the people who watched and were patient. My apologies for the excessive frustration. Genuinely, that's tied to a deeper issue that I just got to recognize, and I'll deal with it. But setting all that aside, we do a show. We ask a question. We want you to convince us, teach us, show us. And we're going to point out what we agree with and disagree with. I'm happy to answer questions on many occasions, but I'm not sitting here to just be quizzed, because let's presume that I don't know anything, that I am, as a video I just released a week or two ago, I am irrelevant. What I believe, what I understand, all of that is irrelevant to how you found Jesus, or you found Allah, or your belief in this, or why you accept anything. I am irrelevant. So stop asking me questions. If your job at this point in a calling show like this is to defend your belief, come in, be ready, do your best. And you know what? If you're honestly here and you do your best, even if it's shit, we'll have a better show. What I think doesn't fucking matter. See you next time. Hey, go to patreon.com/calltheline and line merch to help support us here. Stick around. We're going to pass you over to another show without you having to do anything, I think.